Hello, hello. Awfully sorry, boy, about the delay. Had a spot of trouble. I hope you guys are all doing well. You'll have to excuse my tardiness. Just getting the goods ready for you. I'm gonna post on Twitter that we're live. All right, wonderful. It's great to see you all. It's so nice to have you and be in such lovely company. Roll call. Roll call, goddammit. Everybody type in the chat. Just type here. Type anything you like. We're doing a roll call. And it's like Sergeant Schultz. You remember Sergeant Schultz? Roll call, everybody. Out, out, out. There you go. Roll call. And I see we have 133 watching. Oh, 148 now. Wonderful. We only got 88 likes. Come on, man. What kind of Joe Biden math is that? You trying to short me? You trying to screw me over here? What is that? You know you have to throw shoes at the like button. Don't short me, man. There we go. I see the roll call. I see you all. Stink, man. We got Sarah. I see a couple of crab emojis in the chat. Wonderful. Oh, look. Ignitable Bump remembers the last roll call where I told you can list your favorite Joe Biden war crime, and he or they or she wrote, "I committed war crimes in Libya." There you go. There you go. You know the thing. Oof, we have got a salad of things to get through. So let's start with the first order of business, shall we? Let's start with the first order of business. Corn Pop was a bad dude. He should have gotten a cabinet position, and you all know this. No, seriously. Let's get down to business, man. Again, we got 172 people watching, but just 136 likes. Come on, man, smash that like button. Help out with the algorithm. You know we need to do this, right? So let's head on over to our first story of the day. Well, it's not just today. It's the last couple of days, and I'm sure you will immediately recognize what I'm referring to. So, here we go. It's so bad. I want to cry. Okay. So, since Joe Biden has taken office, he's been inaugurated. He is now the next war criminal in chief. The media, the mainstream media, they've been salivating over him. Salivating, right? It's been one gigantic circle jerk. That's what it's been. I want to show you a couple of headlines, right? This is from the Financial Times. Democracy has prevailed. Wow. It's a bold statement. Democracy has prevailed. From the Scotsman, democracy is precious. Democracy is fragile. In this hour, my friends, democracy has prevailed. So again, we're repeating this quote over here, aren't we? Washington Post, unity is the path. Remember, guys, you remember unity. You know I gotta put on my Rick James ring, right? The one that says unity. Unity! I don't know if you can see it. It's out of focus. It's a bit blinding. Kapow! If you haven't seen Dave Chappelle's sketch on Rick James, then you go watch it. So we're seeing more unity. Daily Telegraph, end the Civil War. Mr. Gorbachev, bring down this wall. This is from Metro. Now make America great again. Joe Biden is president. Now make America great again. You see, Blue MAGA. This is what we're talking about. Blue MAGA. Same old, same old. It's just a handover from Team Red to Team Blue. It's the same party, man. This from the New York Times. Once again, democracy has prevailed. Biden vows to mend the nation. You know, I have a suggestion about that. Maybe, just maybe you could mend the nation with some $2,000 checks or some sort of economic relief, or, you know, a federal jobs program, given that you have so many people that are out of work, right? I don't know, something, right? If you're going to mend the nation. No, instead it's a platitude diarrhea. That's what it is. Here we have another one from the Daily Mirror. Look, a day of history, a day of hope. I'm overcome with emotion. I think I just might faint. Unity. This is wonderful. I'm loving. You know what I love to see? I love it when someone with a 50-year record in government of screwing over the working class, of being a warmonger, of being all types of a piece of shit, is unanimously celebrated by the Fourth Estate and the media, which is supposed to hold governments accountable. I love seeing that. I love it when they all agree on something, right? It's really a testament to the free press of the United States, and you could argue most of Western Europe and the Western Hemisphere, right? So here's another one from the Times. Look, it's time for unity. God, I'm just loving this buzzword, man. Unity all over the place. Let's unite in bombing other countries or something. Now, that's not all. That's not all. If you thought this was cringy, if you thought that was bad, there's just a few examples. I couldn't stand it anymore. I was like, look, eight examples is enough. We got more to cover. If you thought that was bad enough, look at what I'm about to show you, man. It's oh God. Let's just look at it, man. This is, where's this from? MSNBC? Yeah. And you had our favorite war criminal Karen, right? Nicole Wallace herself, who used to be the White House communications director for none other than George Bush. The same George Bush, George W. Bush. Let's take a look at what they have to say about Biden, okay?
An implicit.
Hold on, I can't hear anything. I hope you can hear something.
Rebuke of Donald Trump's foreign policy stewardship over the last 4 years.
That's right. And in just saying that they're going to do their jobs and be good stewards of America's role in this world and focus on American diplomacy, that in and of itself, being a rebuke of President Trump is underscores what we've all been living through in the last 4 years, which is a president who wanted to be more isolationist, who wanted to pull back. What we saw today, I was sitting in that room in Wilmington. I was thinking about the fact that Joe Biden, in some ways, for supporters, is fulfilling the promises that he made on the campaign trail. He said he wanted to have a cabinet that looked like America. And there were people there on that stage, of course, talking about all of their different accolades and their experience, but they were also talking about their families who survived the Holocaust, who survived coming from Cuba and fleeing communists, who talked about having gumbo diplomacy, cooking Southern food, as the United Nations ambassador was saying. All of those things are what America's about. It's this melting pot. The other thing I'll just say is I was talking to a Democrat who just said this also felt like the Avengers. It felt like we're being rescued from this craziness that we've all lived through from the last 4 years. And now here are the superheroes to come and save us all.
You know, David Pless.
I'm sorry, guys. I seem to be having an issue with my audio. I can't hear anything. It's weird. Yeah, having technical difficulties. Christ. I can't see nothing and I can't hear nothing. I think you can hear me. All right, hold on. There we go. I think we're good now. All right, I'm just going to play this clip again, okay?
In humanity, to talk about diplomacy being back, it is all an implicit rebuke of Donald Trump's foreign policy stewardship over the last 4 years.
That's right. And in just saying that they're going to do their jobs and be good stewards of America's role in this world and focus on American diplomacy, that in and of itself, being a rebuke of President Trump is underscores what we've all been living through in the last 4 years, which is a president who wanted to be more isolationist, who wanted to pull back. What we saw today, I was sitting in that room in Wilmington. I was thinking about the fact that Joe Biden, in some ways, for supporters, is fulfilling the promises that he made on the campaign trail. He said he wanted to have a cabinet that looked like America. And there were people there on that stage, of course, talking about all of their different accolades and their experience, but they were also talking about their families who survived the Holocaust, who survived coming from Cuba and fleeing communists, who talked about having gumbo diplomacy, cooking food, cooking Southern food, as the United Nations ambassador was saying. All of those things are what America's about. It's this melting pot. The other thing I'll just say is I was talking to a Democrat who just said this also felt like the Avengers. It felt like we're being rescued from this craziness that we've all lived through from the last 4 years. And now here are the superheroes to come and save us all.
Shut the fuck up, man. Gumbo diplomacy. It's more like gung-ho diplomacy, right? The Avengers are back. Yeah, you know who the Avengers are? It's the it's the same old neocon gang. I can't wait for their humanitarian endeavors, you know? It's so diplomatic when you walk into the General Assembly or the United Nations Security Council and advocate for murdering people with sanctions. It's so diplomatic. I love that. I think it's the fundamental, it's a core pillar of promoting cooperation and really cementing America's role. You see, I can do it too. I can also bullshit. What the fuck was that? What did you hear a single thing in there that made any sense? Like they have nothing good to say about Biden. That they're talking about what? Cooking? What the fuck does that have to do with anything? I mean, look, I'm not gonna lie. You know, if you gave me some, you know, free food is free food. Awesome. But that has nothing to do with Joe Biden, his cabinet, which is just packed with warmongers. And he's not going to be promoting peace in the world. And I have no clue what this is. Just a diarrhea salad. A true diarrhea salad. We're not done. We're not done. And do you see how there's no pushback? There's 4 people on this fucking panel right now. Well, 3 besides her, right? 3 fucking people. Not one of them is like, hey, I think you're full of shit. Not one of them. It's just like, oh yes, I totally agree. Yes, I am in awe at how majestic Joe Biden is, and I would like to kiss his buttocks. What the fuck? And they talk about state media in other countries. What do you call this? Bunch of zombies. Oh yes, Joe Biden. Yes. Oh yes. Oh yes. Diversity, unity. Let me show you the next one. We're not done, huh? We're not done. This is also from MSNBC. Who's this dude? Heilemann. Okay. Take a listen to what he has to say.
The thing that was, to me, so striking about today was that kind of comforting sense, even with the masks, even with the distancing, even without the crowd, you know, those shots inside Statuary Hall that we're familiar with, you know, from every inauguration, the sight of the Clintons and the Bushes and the Obamas, you know, the Avengers, you know, sort of the Marvel superheroes back up there together.
The Clintons, the Obamas, the Avengers. The Bushes. The Bushes are here to fucking save us. Can you believe this guy? Did you fucking hear that shit?
The Clintons and the Bushes and the Obamas, you know, the Avengers, you know, sort of the Marvel superheroes back up there together, all in one place, well, with their friend Joe Biden, all of them, I think, feeling like that all of them sharing that same view that a lot of Americans had, which is that, you know, we did narrowly avert catastrophe in America, and that they were all there to kind of to buttress their buddy Joe Biden and see him in some ways as the natural and necessary corrective to what's been going on. And I think the things, you said soaring a second ago about the speech. I agree. There was a lot about the speech. It was soaring. It may have been the best speech Joe Biden's ever given. It was certainly, I would argue, the most important in the sense that it was not a political speech at all. It was a speech that had a much higher purpose than that. And I don't want to go overboard and compare it to Lincoln's second inaugural, but aspirationally, that's where it wanted to live. But the thing about the speech that struck me most, and I think is most important,
did you hear this guy? I mean, look, in all honesty, I think this is insulting. You're comparing him to Lincoln? No, that's ridiculous. I mean, clearly Joe Biden has the oratory skills and inspires people to the degree of Jesus and Moses. I think you're being way too restrictive in your comparison. Lincoln? No, Jesus, Moses. Why don't you compare him to a Messiah as well? Because you're not doing Joe Biden justice here. I don't think you're kissing his ass hard enough. This is completely unacceptable. You are a traitor, and he works for Russia. I'm telling you, this guy probably works for Russia. Oh my God. And they talk about fucking other countries having state media. What is the difference between this and going, yes, the great leader made such an inspiring speech, the entire nation fell on their knees and were starstruck by the halo around his head. The light was so blinding that he inspired generations for 1,000 years. Joe Biden is the best president in the history of this nation. Oh my God. And he, again, this fucking Avengers comparison. Look, man, I'm going to be straight up with you. I hate superhero movies to begin with. No offense. If you like that, good for you. Me, I'm more of a, Scorsese, Tarantino, Alfred Hitchcock kind of guy. That's my stuff. I don't like superhero movies, the modern ones, the Marvel crap especially. And I mean, regardless, that's besides the point. He's comparing George Bush to a fucking superhero. And look, we averted disaster. Yes, Trump was clearly the root of all evil. Before January 2017, there was no such thing as economic hardship in the United States. There was no such thing as a war in Iraq or Afghanistan or Syria or sanctions killing people in Iran. There was none of that. This is all Donald Trump's fault. And, if Joe Biden had not come along and said, go, the thing, well, then the world would have exploded. Thank God he's here. And George Bush as well. No, we're not done. Here, Glenn shared this. He said, not even North Korean TV would say this. Just listen. Oh, God.
There's still some tinkering going on with the inaugural address, but his aides have made really clear it's not like he's trying to ignore or paper over either what happened at the Capitol 2 weeks ago or what we've been through throughout 4 years of the Trump presidency. And the contrast on display tonight was so stark. I mean, those lights that are just shooting out from the Lincoln Memorial along the reflecting pool, it's like almost extensions of Joe Biden's arms embracing America. It was a moment where the new president came to town and sort of convened the country in this moment of remembrance, outstretching his arms. And contrast that with that video you just saw of a disgraced president on his way out at his lowest point in his presidency at the very end here by himself, fighting for his political movement to live on, and not even necessarily promising that he's going to be leading that movement, you noted in his remarks tonight. I just think that sort of isolated.
Hold on a second, man. Did somebody say something about Joe Biden stretching out his arms? I could have sworn that's what I heard. This is just what the world needs right now. We need Joe Biden stretching out his arms, right? You people are fucking nuts. You people are fucking nuts. They're really something else, man. They're really something else. And then they have the stones to go and talk about other countries like, look at these Arabs, these brownies over here, and these Africans and the Russians, yes, and the North Koreans, boy. They seem to have a little spot of cult of personality, yes. They seem to be obsessed with their leaders. I think we must come in and change them, boy. What the if that is not a cult of personality, I don't know what is. Look at this whitewashing. Look at this bullshit. It's really bad too. It's like, you know, if you really didn't have to pick that analogy, especially when Joe Biden loves doing this with his arms, right? No, we're not having that. I think that's that's probably the worst thing you could have picked. No, just no. I posted something like, you know, if Biden dropped white phosphorus on the crowd, you would see Brian Williams saying that it's like doves of freedom are falling from the sky. He said something similar when Trump attacked Syria in 2018. He was like something about the beauty of our weapons or something, you know, just this is disgusting. I mean, this is not journalism. This is bullshit. Did you hear a single policy? Like just one policy? You know, if you wanted to do this, you could say like, oh, finally, millions of Americans, every American is going to be covered with universal health care now. And so many people their lives are going to be saved and bettered. Joe Biden is healing the nation. That would make fucking sense, right? And it works as an analogy. But of course, he's not doing that. And he will never do that because he's a corporate hack. And even then, you should probably refrain from salivating over politicians, regardless. But he doesn't give you anything. What are you doing? This is all part of the let's go back to brunch. Let's go back to sleep, right? Oh, look, he's reaching around and he's healing the nation. Can't you see? Joe Biden is here. Daddy, Uncle Joe is here. Fuck you, you weird motherfuckers. No, we are not having it. We are not having that, okay? Christ, they're like slobbering all over him like a bunch of goddamn dogs, man. It's just so revolting. And I wish it were just like these two isolated incidents. I showed you all of these headlines, right? This is embarrassing. This is just and you can see it's not just in the US, right? Christ almighty. And they have the nerve to talk about Syrian state media or Iranian state media or North Korean state media. Dude, I can tell you something. It would be every authoritarian or every dictator's wet dream to have an American media at their disposal because of the power of brainwashing and propagandization that they are capable of enacting. That is how evil and powerful American media is. And I'm actually paraphrasing a quote by someone. I can't remember who said this, but that's something along the lines of, you know, being jealous of having the same kind of media apparatus the U.S. does. Just, look, blue MAGA. Here we go. Get ready, guys. Get ready. Everything is okay. Orange Cheetah Man is gone. Go back to sleep. Shh. It's okay. It's okay. We'll keep bombing them. You go back to sleep. Don't worry. Don't worry about a thing. It's okay. Uncle Joe is here. Fuck you. I'm so sick of these people. I really am. I'm so sick of them. I hate them. Go away. Hold on. I got to close out the music tabs before that comes on by accident. God almighty. We have 312 people watching, but only 232 likes. Something is off. Okay, I need you guys to hit the like button, throw a shoe at it, drone strike it, sanction it. Do whatever you need to do. Get it done. I'm counting on you. And if you have not participated in the roll call, I said roll call. So type here. Make sure that you're here. I want to see you, and I want to make sure that everyone is participating as we move on to our next segment of Biden's Rainbow Coalition death cult, right? Uncle Joe's Rainbow Coalition death cult. Someone asked me if I coined that. Yes, I did. I think it's quite fitting, if I may say so. If I can please gloat over that one thing. because this is really a death cult. I mean, you just listen to them. Oh, the great leader, the supreme leader of the United States of freedom and democracy and the greatest nation on earth. He's finally taken over from Orange Cheeto Man. Everything's good. So, moving on to our next segment. Are you ready for more? You're not ready. We're just getting started. I don't know how many of you are new subscribers, but in the past, we've done 7-hour, 9-hour live streams. Shit, man, this is my thing. You know, this is me in my element. Looking at war criminals, you know. So, all right, I'm going to sip my water. And in the meantime, I kindly encourage you and I implore you to please support the show. Thank you very much. I don't like plugging the show. I'm here to talk about politics. So just support the show, bitch. Just whatever, man. It's on the screen. Do I need to say anything else? Like, there you go. I mean, I think I made the case for independent media and how important that is. Unless, look, man, it's your choice. I'm being frank here. You can support independent media or you can go back and listen to that stuff, to Nicole Wallace and MSNBC. We don't have a choice here. We really don't have a choice. This is what we're faced with. Okay. So, you know, if there was no indie media, what would we do? We would be screwed. All right. So this next one, oh boy. Again, I'm putting all the links in the chat and the description, whatever. So we have a Patreon, a PayPal, everything is there. And I thank you very much. I really do. And by the way, I will get to these super chats. If you've sent in a donation on PayPal or YouTube super chat, I'll get to them at the end. Okay. So let's go, man. Let's go to the next one. Right. Yeah, this is... Okay. So Antony Blinken, he's the new Secretary of State. He's just been confirmed as of recently after his confirmation hearing with the Senate. So he takes over from Mike Pompeo, right? We go from the purple McDonald's monster to another monster who talks nicely but says the same things. So, I mean, here's a pop quiz. Are you ready for a pop quiz? You're going to enjoy this. I think this is a fun one to do. Okay. I'm going to read you a statement, or two statements rather, and I want you to guess who said this, which Secretary of State has said this. Okay. Give me 1 second to pull it up. Here we go. So okay. The first statement is the United States commitment to Israel's security is sacrosanct. Who said that? Which Secretary of State said that? Can you guess maybe? Here's another one. Seeking to increase pressure on the regime led by a brutal dictator, Maduro. Can you guess who these statements belong to? I'm going to read the comments. I want to see what you guys answer because I'm genuinely curious what you're going to say. Hold on. Let me see. Okay, I got your comments up. So one of you said Goebbels. That's a good one. You guys are saying that's Pompeo. Pompeo, Hillary Clinton, Blinken, Rick James, Unity, Albright. Okay, Andre is saying the first one is Pompeo, the second one is Blinken. You want the answer? Both of them are Blinken. This is Joe Biden's new Secretary of State. During the same hearing, both of them. That's just a tiny sample. I sat through the entire 4-hour hearing. That's how I've been spending my day. I'm glad this is my job now because I used to do this shit for fun. I'm not kidding. I put my, well, for fun. The Mueller report was not fun, I can assure you. And I sat through all 7 hours of that shit. And I wasn't even reporting back then. I was just like, I want to see what's going on. I sat through all 4 hours of this shit. I suffer for you guys. And I've picked out all the shit that he said about a wide array of topics, and I grouped them together. So we're going to go through Iran, Israel, etc. We're going to go through each one together. Yes, it's going to be fun. Are you ready? I got you, huh? You thought that shit was Pompeo. No, it's Blinken. Meet the new boss, same as the old boss, the same shit. This is what I love about American politicians. If you take their statements, not out of context, but you just put them on paper, right? So you just show it without attributing the quote. You just say, who is this? You can't tell. You have no clue. This shows you. It's one party. It's one party. Okay, so let's get started. Are you ready? We're going to start with, now keep in mind, when Blinken was doing the confirmation hearing, he's asked questions by different senators, right? So you had, Rand Paul, you had the chair, Menendez. So he'll talk about, each one of them will ask him about Iran and several times. So you'll have a quote that was maybe in the first hour and then another one in the third hour, but I've grouped them together by subject. So let's go through them. So I will start out with Iran. Okay. Are you ready? I'm just going to play you what he's saying. Here we go. So, okay, you should be able to see that. The first one that we're going to listen to is over here. This is at the beginning. Okay, let's go.
When it comes to Iran, a couple of things. First, President-elect Biden is committed to the proposition that Iran will not acquire a nuclear weapon. And we share, I know, that goal across this committee. An Iran with a nuclear weapon, or on the threshold of having one, with the capacity to build one on short order, would be an Iran that is even more dangerous than it already is when it comes to all of the other malicious activities that it's engaged in, whether it is support for terrorism, whether it is fueling and feeding its proxies, whether it is destabilizing the region. An Iran with a nuclear weapon or with the threshold capacity to build one is an Iran that would act potentially with even greater impunity than it already is. So I think we have an urgent responsibility to do whatever we can to prevent Iran from acquiring a record or getting a weapon or getting close to the capacity to having the fissile material to break out on short notice. In my judgment, the JCPOA, for whatever its limitations, was succeeding on its own terms in blocking Iran's pathways to producing fissile material for a nuclear weapon on short order. It also featured, and a feature that continues, the most intrusive inspections and monitoring regime in the history of arms control. The challenge we face now is that we pulled out of the agreement. Iran is now taking steps to undo the various constraints that were imposed on it by the agreement. And so it has increased its stockpile of low-enriched uranium. It is now enriching at a higher level. It is deploying centrifuges in ways that were prohibited under the agreement. The result is, based on public reporting, the breakout time, the time it would take Iran to produce enough fissile material for one weapon, has gone from beyond a year, as it was under the JCPOA, to about 3 or 4 months, based at least on public reporting. And that potentially brings us right back to the crisis point that we were reaching before the deal.
Okay, I mean, this guy sounds just like Pompeo, okay? No difference. And did you notice what he said at the end? Oh, look, man, they're 3 months away from building a nuke, we're right back to square one. We better crack down hard on them because who knows what could I've seen this movie before, right? I've seen this one before. Oh, Iraq, Saddam is 45 minutes away from blowing us up. Oh my God, he's this close to having a nuke. We've been hearing this for decades now. Man, Iran, they're just a few months away from having a nuke, just 1 year. Crazy, man, crazy. Like they must be stuck in some kind of wormhole or some vortex in space-time where this year just keeps dragging out, right? They're always 1 year away. It's amazing, right? It's crazy. This guy sounds like Pompeo. We're not done. We're not done. Okay? We're not done at all. Yeah, yes, it is really that bad. You think I'm playing, man. No, I'm not playing, unfortunately. And neither are they. And neither are they. So, again, I had to go and pick these out. The next one that he talks about is Soleimani, right? So you remember Trump assassinated Soleimani? So this was over here.
I had a list of questions, and one of the questions he asked was about Soleimani. I mean, is it a good thing that Soleimani is off the battlefield? And I was surprised because you remain adamant that it did not improve our national security. I mean, I would take the opposite side of that viewpoint. You want to try and explain that one? I mean, I think because he was a mastermind, because he was so effective, because he was responsible for hundreds of American lives lost, I don't see how you can agree that that enhances our national security.
No one is shedding a tear for the demise of Qasem Soleimani. And certainly when I was last in office, I saw firsthand the blood that he had on his hands. So no one regrets the fact that he's no longer there. I think from where I sat, Senator, the question is not whether taking him out was the right thing to do. It was gaming out what might be the consequences and asking ourselves whether, on balance, we would be left safer or not in taking that action. Previously.
Okay, so basically, he doesn't care that Trump took out General Soleimani and almost started a world war, an all-out war, and that this was a violation of international law as declared by the UN Special Rapporteur on Extrajudicial Killings, and that they screwed up. I mean, screwed up is putting it mildly. They committed an act of war, right? This is an assassination. No, he's like, yeah, I think, it's about our safety, man, Maybe we should have waited and done it in a different way. Moving on. There's a lot of this, man. We are not done. There is a lot of this warmongering bullshit. If you thought that this was going to be any different, oh, you're in for a surprise. You're in for a surprise. So next, moving on to one. Okay, over here. So this was around. Here we go.
Colleagues raised concerns about Iran and Iran's aggressive pursuit, both regionally of influence of their ballistic missile program and of their restarting their more robust enrichment program and the threat that poses to the region and to our security. I also just want to renew my commitment to the U.S.-Israel relationship and to trying to pursue some positive path towards a two-state solution. The Middle East as a region remains as unsettled and unstable as it's ever been, although there was progress in some of the normalization aspects of the Abraham Accords that you have recognized. The administration will face real challenges in assessing Iran's willingness to negotiate in good faith and the path forward. I look forward to working with you on this challenge and making sure that we build a framework with our core allies in Europe that can take into account these broader destabilizing actions by Iran. Let me ask quickly about two other things going on in the region that haven't been addressed so far. Recently, outgoing Secretary Pompeo designated the Houthi movement in Yemen as
right. So I'm gonna get back to Yemen in a second. But did you notice what he said? He repeated the same thing that Blinken said in the statement I just showed you before, where look, Iran, they're enriching uranium, they're deviating from the deal, they have a larger number of centrifuges. You're not in the deal. You pulled out of the deal. How can you leave an agreement and then criticize someone for not following an agreement that you are no longer a part of? You left the fucking JCPOA. You're not in it. It's not up to Iran to make concessions. You need to get back in the fucking deal. And you need to lift sanctions. Then Iran will comply with the JCPOA in full. They're still in it. Everything that Iran has done, increasing the number of centrifuges, enriching uranium past 3.67%, is a result of the United States leaving the deal, slapping them with sanctions, killing Soleimani. And now they're not only saying like, oh, Iran has to comply with the deal, which we are not even a fucking part of anymore. No, we want a new deal now. We want this deal to cover ballistic missiles, which have nothing to do with fucking nukes. But it's good for Israel. We want Iran to stop helping resistance efforts in Palestine, in Syria, in Iraq, because it's good for our geopolitical goals. What is this bullshit, man? You couldn't even stick to the first fucking deal. Why the fuck would Iran trust you to even enter the original JCPOA and never mind negotiate a new deal? Your word means jack shit. And you need to understand this is not just Trump, because it's one thing if Trump screwed everything up and they come back now and say, okay, we're going to re-enter the deal and we're going to comply with it and we're going to lift the sanctions and go back to what we agreed on. It's literally the same people that served under Obama, right? No, they're saying we want a new deal, which is exactly Trump's position. Man, these people they're really scum. Like their word does not mean shit. This is not diplomacy. This is bullying. This is ridiculous. Iran is not going to do shit unless you remove the sanctions. I'm telling you, man, like that's the official position. They're deluding themselves. So we'll get back to Yemen in a second. Now, okay, are you ready for the next one? God, Lindsey Graham, everybody. Lindsey Graham. Our friend from, where is he? From South Carolina, right? No. Where is he from again, Lindsey Graham? I keep forgetting, man. Here he is. Okay, so yeah, he is from South Carolina. I got it right. Anyway, so listen to what he has to say now. I honestly, I'll give you my commentary afterward. Just listen to it. I want to say so much stuff about this guy. He's such a clown.
Quickly go around the world and try to get a 30,000-foot view of where we start this new administration. Do you still consider Iran the largest state sponsor of terrorism?
I do.
Okay. Do you consider Israel a racist nation?
No, I do not.
Okay, that's a good start. Afghanistan.
Holy shit! Did you see that? he didn't he didn't skip a beat. Didn't skip a beat. It's like a robot. There's no such thing as Democrat, Republican. They're all the fucking same. And by the way, you heard that phrase? Do you consider Iran to be the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism? This is the new slogan. This is the new tagline that they've been using now for a while. Okay, let me show it to you because I saw this being said on Fox a few months ago. And I mean, it's astonishing. Like, it's no different from Iraq has weapons of mass destruction, right? Take a look. God, they can't stop, man. They're so terrible. Okay.
Iran is the world's greatest sponsor of terrorism.
Because Iran is the leading state sponsor of terrorism.
Against the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism.
Iran is the leading state sponsor of terrorism.
That's Mike Pompeo's favorite phrase. Mike Pompeo did a tour in Europe around that time, August, September. He visited a bunch of countries, and in every goddamn speech, it's not the first time, he's been doing this for years, but especially as of late, he was like, Iran is the world's largest state sponsor of terrorism, right? It's a new slogan. And now you're seeing the new guy who's supposed to replace him agreeing with it. What is that supposed, like, put yourself in the shoes of Iranians. Like, what are they supposed to deduce from this statement? Never mind the fact that you, as an American, should be concerned that you have a new party, yet the Secretary of State sounds just like the same old one, who is a disgusting war hawk. You should be concerned. You should be very concerned. So going back to Lindsey Graham, because he's really a character, this one. He's really a character.
quickly go around the world and try to get a 30,000-foot view of
Right. Okay. So we already heard this.
where we start this. Afghanistan. Do you agree that I agree totally with Senator Shaheen that if we abandon the Afghan women who fought so hard to have a say about the future of their children, it will affect our children's future. Do you agree with that?
I do.
Yeah, meaning, okay, do you want to stay in Afghanistan another 20 years? Yes. So moving on over here, we have some more about the JCPOA. Okay. This is over. There we go.
Stronger, as you say, would you commit to re-entering the JCPOA without any preconditions as a starting point, so long as the Iranians return to all of their commitments as well?
What the President-elect has said on that, Senator, is that if Iran returns to compliance with the JCPOA, we would do the same thing and then use that as a platform, working with our allies and partners to build a longer and stronger agreement to also capture some of the other issues that need to be dealt with regard to missiles, with regard to Iran's activities and destabilizing activities in the region.
There we go. It's the same bullshit. They're trying to renegotiate. Well, not renegotiate. They're trying to basically bully Iran into a new deal when they didn't even follow the first one. You're hearing it. So then we have one last one. This is about Pompeo. Just before he left office, he said Iran is like the new home base of Al-Qaeda, which of course is ridiculous. I did a video on that, but this is what he says.
You no doubt saw that Secretary of State Pompeo made remarks pertaining to Iran, characterizing it as Al-Qaeda's new home.
Mm-hmm.
And the implications for the 2000 AUMF is something I'd like to explore with you. Do you believe, based on the connection that Secretary Pompeo makes between Iran and Al-Qaeda, that a Trump or a Biden administration would have authority to strike Iran, or do you instead adopt the interpretation that if it's deemed necessary to engage in any sort of military action, it would be the President of the United States need to instead come before this body for authorization?
It would be the latter. We would, I believe, need to and should, in any event, come before the Congress in that situation. With regard to the statement the Secretary made, that's something I intend to look into, if confirmed, very, very promptly. I haven't had a chance to see what the underlying basis is for that, but obviously that's something we'd have to take very, very seriously. Al-Qaeda leadership has been in Iran for some time. At various points, it was didn't have full freedom of movement. At other points, it may have had the leash taken off a little bit. But
yeah, you know why they didn't have full freedom of movement? Because they're fucking enemies, and the whole story is nonsense. I'm glad he agrees with the Constitution, though. Right? Like, what a question. Like, do you think the president should come before this body first, come to Congress before bombing another country? Yeah. Oh, how nice of you. Once again, I think this is a ridiculous point, though, because even if the entire Congress votes unanimously to bomb another country, so what? It's still a violation of international law. The U.S. Congress is not the world's ruling body and does not supersede the United Nations Security Council. That is a fact. So do you understand this concept? Some people don't, huh? I've heard them say ridiculous shit. So it's nice to hear that, right? I'm astonished that this guy's the Secretary of State now, and he's not sure that Al-Qaeda's in Iran. Jesus Christ. I mean, it's very concerning because either he is a complete idiot or he's lying. And in both cases, that just doesn't work. This is the top diplomat. The top diplomat. And he doesn't have an answer to that? Christ. So he's not denying what Pompeo said, essentially. All right. this is a long segment, but I sat through 4 hours, so I picked out the best bits. It's important. You need to understand who's going to be taking over for the next couple of years. You need to understand who this person is. I mean, if you didn't already know, since we covered his record with Obama. But let's move on to China now. Okay, let's see what they said about China. So this over here, yeah, we had a very interesting statement with Romney, which I'll get to in a second. But the very first one on China was here. Take a listen.
Institutions. A position of strength when we stand up for our values, when human rights. As we look at China, there is no doubt that it poses the most significant challenge of any nation state to the United States in terms of our interests, the interests of the American people. There are, as I see it, rising adversarial aspects to the relationship, certainly competitive ones, and still some cooperative ones when it is in our mutual interest. I think as we're thinking about how to deal with China, and I think this is reflected in the work that the committee has done, we have to start by approaching China from a position of strength, not weakness. And the good news is our ability to do that is largely within our control. Position of strength when we are working with, not denigrating, our allies. That's a source of strength for us in dealing with China.
Okay, do you want me to translate that for you? Let me translate that for you. That means we are going to be hawks on China, and Australia is going to help us. Okay, so if you don't know what's happening with Australia, that's a whole other story. I don't just mean with the fact they've abandoned Assange at the behest of the U.S. No. Australia is basically now like a new U.S. base to keep China in check. Not to mention they have their own fleets over there and their support for Taiwan. No, this is what he's saying. Okay, he's saying the same shit Pompeo says, but in a nice way. So instead of coming out and saying, the Chinese Communist Party, they're liars and they cheat and steal. Yeah, he's quoting himself, isn't he? Instead of directly saying it, he's saying it diplomatically, right? He's the top diplomat. But it's the same message. We have to approach them from a position of strength. It sounds nice, right? It sounds almost like, oh yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. He's not insulting them. No, that's not what that means. That's not what that means. That means we're going to keep them in check with our military and all means available to us. Don't worry, it doesn't end there. It doesn't end there. Here's another interesting one. So this one was with Mitt Romney, if I recall correctly. Yeah. When he was questioning him. So this is around... There we go.
A free field to redefine the century more on their terms than on ours. One of the ways, this is just one example, but I think one of the ways we see this acutely is there's an increasing divide between what you might call techno-democracies, that is technologically sophisticated countries that are also democracies, and techno-autocracies like China. And whether the techno-democracies or the techno-autocracies are the ones that get to define how technology is used, the technology that dominates all of our lives, I think is going to go a long way towards shaping the next decades. We have a very strong interest in making sure that the techno-democracies come together more effectively so that we are the ones who are doing the shaping of those norms and rules. And to the extent technology can be infused with values, that these are more our values than theirs. But
all right, let me translate that for you. He's saying China is a technological powerhouse, right? You saw the friction, if you want to call it that, between the Trump administration and China, right? They had they had a ban on trade. Then he tried to ban Huawei. Remember, accusing them of spying, and again, Pompeo going to the Chinese Communist Party. All of this stuff, right? They're trying to blunt. Okay, they're trying to cripple China's tech sector because it's competition to Silicon Valley. They're scared of it, right? So what he's saying here is that, well, look, our values, the techno-democracies, we have to come together to make sure that we are controlling the world and in shaping the world. He didn't say controlling. He said shaping. It's the same shit. Okay? This is like Cold War rhetoric. That's what it means, essentially. Okay? You can tell this guy is not interested in mutual cooperation and respect. No, he's saying we're in competition and we want to win. That's what he's saying. Those are two different things, right? And he's not just talking about the market. He's not just talking about trade. He's talking about values and shaping the world. Do you understand? It's very interesting rhetoric. Very interesting. It says a lot. And once again, this is the difference between, well, not always, but usually it's the difference between Democrats and Republicans. They're saying the same goddamn shit, but the Democrats just say it in a more silver-tongued manner, right? So you don't understand. It goes over people's heads. Like, oh, that sounds eloquent. That sounds fancy. I like that. Oh, God. These people are such hawks. They're really just hawks. They can't resist going for blood, man. There's so many on China. God, here's another one with Romney. What did they say here again?
Together in that area.
Thank you. That does raise the question of what it's going to be like to serve in an administration where former Secretary Kerry is going to be working with you. I hope that you're never tempted to give in your strategy with regards to China in order to obtain a climate advantage that Secretary Kerry might be promoting. So your State Department commitment to.
That's Mitt Romney saying, I like you. I like you a lot. Make sure you shit on China for me. Okay. We're not done. Now we're going to go to Venezuela. Are you ready? We haven't even gotten to Israel yet. We haven't even. There's a lot. Okay? There's a lot. So let's go to Venezuela. Oh, God. I think this was with the insufferable Marco Rubio. Christ almighty. So this one was over here. Yes. God, I can't stand this guy.
On Venezuela, I'm sure you're well aware that Maduro has repeatedly, over the course of the last 5 to 7 years, utilized negotiations as a delay tactic. It's so egregious that even the Vatican says we're not having any more negotiations. In fact, in a very strongly worded letter from the Pope to him said, you remember the last time we met, I'm paraphrasing, remember the last time we met, you agreed to things, you never did any of them, there's no purpose in meeting anymore. Effort after effort to negotiate with Maduro's regime for whatever have all resulted in nothing. He uses it to buy time and to delay, and he uses it to divide the opposition. And unfortunately, multiple players have fallen into that trap. The reality of it is that he will agree to all sorts of short-term reversible things, release a political prisoner or what have you. But at the end of the day, he's not ever going to agree to free and fair elections because he can't win them.
That's such a weird thing to say. Did you? Again, it's so important to pay attention to politicians when they speak and read between the lines. What he just said, Rubio, is like, Maduro, he engages in diplomacy sometimes, and he'll do things that we ask him to, but he still won't step down, and we don't like that. He just said that, but with different words. It's exactly what he said. Look, he'll release political prisoners, and he'll participate in negotiations, which means diplomacy, and he'll engage in talks, but it's all a stalling tactic. These brown people, nah, that's not real diplomacy unless they do what we want immediately. And at the end of the day, we want a new puppet in power. We want Juan Guaido in power. We want our guy ruling Venezuela, and he doesn't seem like he wants to budge. So we don't like that. Hold on, I'm confused, man. Are you in the U.S. Congress or in the Venezuelan Congress? Because who the fuck elected you to decide who's going to rule Venezuela? This is what is mind-boggling to me. Are you a Venezuelan citizen? Did someone ask you for your fucking opinion about who should be president of Venezuela? Unreal. Okay, now let's. It's not done.
Is it your view that that our stance towards Venezuela should change, in essence, that we should no longer recognize Juan Guaido and enter into negotiations with Maduro?
No, it is not. I very much agree with you, Senator, first of all, with regard to a number of the steps that were taken.
Christ. There you have it. There you have it. Same old bullshit. How is this any different from Pompeo? So he's just saying we're going to continue to recognize Juan Guaido, who used to be the leader of the National Assembly in Venezuela. They're going to continue to recognize him as the president of Venezuela, even though most people in Venezuela have no fucking clue who this guy is. He's no longer the head of the National Assembly, meaning any sort of claim to legitimacy that he had is now gone. And they don't care. They don't care. So clearly they're not really interested in democracy, like, you know, even if you were going to play devil's advocate, because there's a new head of the National Assembly now. So on what claim does Juan Guaido stake his presidency? This is bullshit. And by the way, even the EU was like, yo, look, we can't recognize this guy as the interim president because he's not the leader of the National Assembly anymore. Goodbye. They said this about 2 weeks ago, right? No, the United Kingdom, the US, they don't care. And Joe Biden administration, they don't care. They're going to continue the Trump policy. And you're going to sit there and tell me that Democrats and Republicans are different? God, they make it so easy. They're just telling it to you in plain sight. It's a public fucking hearing. Unreal. So I think there's one more on no, I think that was it about Venezuela. So going to Israel. Ah, yes, Israel. Remember guys, Israel is the only democracy in the Middle East. And if you say otherwise, let's get to it. Okay, let's get to it. There are a lot of good statements here. Oh boy, this is saucy. Here we go. This is the first one.
Rabin, and he has worked with every Israeli.
I think he's talking about Biden, yeah.
Thank you, Senator. First, let me start with this very basic proposition, which is that our commitment to Israel's security is sacrosanct. And this is something that the president-elect feels very strongly. His very first trip, when he was a member of this committee, as a senator, his first foreign trip was to Israel. He met with a prime minister by the name of Golda Meir. She had a young aide by the name of Yitzhak Rabin, and he has worked with every Israeli prime minister since then. And so the foundation of our relationship is support for Israel's security. Having said that,
wow. The foundation of our relationship is support for Israel's security. And then, of course, he goes on to say, but yeah, you know, we support a two-state solution. So number one is Israel's security, and then maybe a two-state solution, right? Because Palestinians are not equal human beings. Palestinians, they can wait another 70 years until they have a state of their own. That's not a priority. The priority is Israel's security. He just said it to you. You just heard him, right? Do you want to play it again? No need. He'll say it again in the other remarks. So over here.
Since the Oslo Accords, and yet sometimes I feel U.S. policy since Truman, in one way or another, certainly since the Oslo Accords, and yet sometimes I feel like our policy is to say two-state solution is our policy, but it has been hard for us to find meaningful path forward. I paid my first visit to Israel in 1998. I've been to Israel more times than I've been to Ireland, and I have relatives in Ireland. I really value the U.S.-Israel relationship. Side by side are worse today than they were in 1998 when I first visited, and I find that tragic.
Yeah.
And what's the challenge of not having a meaningful two-state solution? Let's just talk about COVID. There's a vaccination campaign going on right now that in Israel is viewed as one of the leading and most innovative in the world in terms of vaccinating high percentages of people, but virtually no one in Palestine has been vaccinated. And the Israeli health minister says when we are done with our citizens, then we will focus attention on our neighbors. So the Palestinians are in this odd space where they're sort of they don't have their own country, they're in a country, but they're not considered citizens, they're considered neighbors. This is the kind of thing that suggests we really do need to find a path forward. I do believe the Trump administration's success in the Abrahamic Accords is notable, and I applauded it right out of the gate. how might we use the improved relations between nations in the Arab world with Israel to help advance the prospect, finally, since the late 1940s, the prospect of a two-state solution?
Well, first of all, I very much share the premise of your comment and question, which is, as I see it, the two-state solution, however distant it may appear, is still the best and probably the only way to truly assure Israel's future as a Jewish and democratic state, and of course to give the Palestinians the state to which they are entitled. The challenge, of course, is how to move forward on that at a time when it, you rightly said, seems more distant than it's ever been, at least since Oslo. I hope that the progress that was made with the Abraham Accords, which I applaud, the steps that countries are taking to normalize relations with Israel is an extremely positive development, and one that we would hope to build on if given the opportunity. I hope that also might create a greater sense of confidence and security in Israel as it considers its relationship with the Palestinians, because whether we like it or not, whether they like it or not, it's not just going away.
And these nations that have...
Amazing, right? Once again, he agrees with Trump policies, right? Giving away moving the U.S. Embassy to Jerusalem and recognizing it as the capital of Israel. It's not. Goes against international law. He said nothing about the Golan Heights, the Syrian Golan Heights that are occupied by Israel since '67, that Trump also recognized them as Israeli, which is also a violation of international law. UN Resolution 242. I'm telling you, even the U.S. voted for that. They passed unanimously, tells Israel, get the fuck out of the Golan Heights. 50 years later, they still won't leave. Okay? Among the other territories. So he agrees with that bullshit, right? Which has caused a huge rift in the Arab world, which does nothing to advance the security of Palestinians, let alone a fucking state for them. On the contrary, you have to understand something. The only goddamn leverage that Arab countries really have against Israel is not legitimizing them. The majority of Arab countries do not recognize Israel as a country. Israel fucking craves this. This all they want is to be recognized as a legitimate country. And what did they do? Sudan, Sudan was really kind of coerced and bullied into it, I'd say, more than the others, right? Sudan, you then had Bahrain, right? And you had the UAE recognizing Israel, the Abraham Accords, which I just talked about. They threw away their leverage. They just threw it away. And think of this. This is insane. Like, these are settlers that have come from Europe and elsewhere, demolishing Palestinian homes, living on Palestinians' lands. You're recognizing their existence, their states, their nation, their entity on Palestinian land when Palestinians haven't gotten their own state. I mean, this is bullshit. So this idea that this promotes peace and security was a propaganda line. It's a nonsense talking point from the Trump administration, and he's going along with it, right? He's going along with it. And did you note how he said, like, I hope that these accords will, reassure Israel and basically, what he's saying is that, I hope Israel feels more safe now, and maybe, if they're kind enough, they'll maybe inch towards letting Palestinians have their own country, maybe, like as if it depends on the fucking hell, man. They're all the same. There's no difference. It's unreal. It's fucking unreal. And you might be sitting there saying, well, yeah, but look, man, he did say two-state solution, so obviously he believes in Palestinians having their own state. Motherfucker, it's 2021, you asshole. 2021. How many fucking more centuries are Palestinians supposed to wait exactly? If someone came and stripped you of your citizenship and took away your passport and you can't travel anywhere and you have to live under military occupation, you would not tolerate that for 1 fucking hour, never mind 70 years. So don't fucking sit there and tell me that, oh yeah, Palestinians can just wait around. Go and fuck yourself. This is bullshit and you fucking know it. If they really wanted to get it done, they could get it done just like that. I didn't hear any concrete plan. I didn't hear anything. All he did was agree to the concessions that Trump gave Israel. That's it. That's all I heard. And then we have another bit over here regarding BDS, boycott, divestment, sanctions.
From the visa division at the State Department. Israel, we talked about building on the Abraham Accord, some of the positive things that have happened recently. I'd like to hear your comments on that, but also with regard to global boycotts of Israel. Senator Cardin and I have worked together on this over the years to try to oppose the global BDS movement, boycott, divestments, and sanctions against Israel, essentially a double standard for Israel. And then Senator Booker and I have worked on the anti-normalization laws, in other words, adding to the efforts that you make every year to, require countries to include their annual human rights record, also adding to that their people-to-people engagement with Israeli citizens and residents.
Senator, yes, as we had a brief opportunity to discuss, I support the Abraham Accords. I applaud the work that was done to achieve them. I think they have significantly advanced the security for Israel and for the countries involved. It opens new perspectives and prospects with regard to travel, to business, to trade, all of which is very, very positive, and I would hope that we have an opportunity to build on them going forward. With regard to BDS, the president-elect, and I strongly share this conviction, is resolutely opposed to BDS for the reasons that you cite. It unfairly and inappropriately singles out Israel. It creates a double standard and a standard that we do not apply to other countries.
What? Did you hear that, man? Really, you don't apply that standard to other countries? Really, you're not sanctioning other countries? You're sure about that? You're not sanctioning Venezuela, Syria, Iran, and now Yemen and Cuba again? No. And those are way worse. I mean, those sanctions literally murder people. It's like we're not allowing food to come in. Not, oh, we don't want to do business with you. It's no, we're going to fucking starve your population type of sanctions. We're going to murder your civilian population. Brilliant, right? What a breath of fresh air compared to Mike Pompeo. It's so nice to finally see. Oh my God, they're so full of shit. They are so horrible. I know this has been a long segment, but I really hope that people watch it and share it, because foreign policy is really a cornerstone of what's wrong with DC. And a lot of it is interlinked to domestic policy. So the last thing that I'll show you here, which is, again, frankly, fucking astonishing. And this was also from the same hearing. This is with Lindsey Graham. Okay. Let me just pull it up for you. And he asks him about, I'm just going to play it. Oh, God. All right.
Appreciate that very much. On immigration, you're soon going to be Secretary of State with hopefully a good bipartisan vote. I think you deserve it. What would you tell the people in a caravan coming toward America?
I would say do not come.
Yeah, I think that's a good message. We're going to appreciate that.
You heard that, right? Lindsey Graham asked him, what would you tell the people in a caravan coming towards America? I would say do not come. That's what Blinken, the new Secretary of State, is saying. Amazing. Amazing. And keep in mind, when this hearing begins, like around in the first couple of minutes, Blinken talks about how his own family came to America to seek refuge. You know how they were telling us, oh man, the Trump administration, they're so horribly racist. As soon as we get rid of Trump, we're going to release the kids in cages. Where is it? We're going to enact a more just and humane immigration policy. Where is it? Oh, okay. They removed the Muslim ban. Half of it, not all of it. The one that Obama and Biden came up with originally, which they don't tell you about, which Trump built on. Not that one. No, just the Trump one. Just a little bit. They're a little bit less racist. Just a tiny little bit less racist. I mean, frankly, this statement right here, if you compare it to the rest of the shit that I just showed you, probably one of the milder ones in terms of, how aggressive, how hawkish they are. Because if you think sanctions don't kill people, if you think war doesn't kill people and makes millions of people suffer abroad, I mean, what am I supposed to tell you? And of course, they completely gloss over the fact that, why do you have caravans of people? Why do you have so many migrants, refugees, which is the right term, coming to America in the first place? Could it be that America fucked up their continent for the last couple of decades, installing right-wing governments, plundering their resources, harassing them, destabilizing their countries? It could nothing to do with that. You're sure? You're sure? It's just like a coincidence. People just leave everything behind and go thousands of miles to a country where they don't speak the language for fun, for fun. They have nothing better to do. Unreal. So there's a bit more that I want to show you about Yemen and some more things in a second, okay, as part of another segment. So I just wanted to give you again, I sat through the whole 4-hour thing and I picked out as much as I could regarding each topic. Yeah, conclusion, this guy is no different from Pompeo. He's maybe a bit more polite, but I didn't hear him disagreeing. I didn't hear him disagreeing fundamentally with anything the Trump administration did. I don't hear any plan for Palestinians. They're repeating the same thing about the JCPOA. They want a new one, which is Trump's position. They're okay with the Abraham Accords, which is Trump's position. They have no problem being hawkish on China, hawkish on Iran. I mean, it's a disaster, right? It's the same old, always. So there you go. Don't worry, we're not done. We're not done. We got some more to go through. I just need to go get some water. You'll excuse me a second. We got 400 people watching. Make sure you've hit the like button for the algorithm. And go, you know the thing. Thank you for supporting the show. If you want to donate, I'll read all of your super chats at the very end. I'll be right back. Thank you very much. Corn Pop was a bad dude. We are back. We are back. We are back. So, very exciting announcement over here. Hold on. Very exciting announcement over here. Hold on. This is what I'm talking about, man. We're six members away from hitting our goal. This is dope. This is amazing. And, you know, we're going to have a brand new crab dance once we hit there. And I'll play crab dance when someone joins to support the show on Patreon. So we're 6 people away, guys. I think we can do it. We got over 300 people watching. Let's go, baby. Patreon.com/PapiChudaman. And yeah, let's get to the next segment. So this one is also from the same hearing, but you're going to see what's up. Okay. So again, this is from Blinken's confirmation hearing with the Senate. And there comes a part where Rand Paul, he questions Antony Blinken. So let's watch this clip and then we'll discuss, okay? Because it's it's quite interesting. It's quite interesting indeed.
Paul, and we will get back to Senator Portman. Senator Paul.
Thank you. Like Joe Biden and Hillary Clinton, you've been a consistent supporter of military intervention in the Middle East, from the Iraq War to the Libyan War to the Syrian civil war. Some on your side of the aisle, including the president-elect, have said, well, we were given bad intelligence. They misled us on the intelligence on Iraq. That's a very specific reason. There's probably some truth to it, but I think it misses sort of the lesson of the Iraq War. Likewise, your justification for maybe coming to a new approach on the Libyan civil war is, well, maybe we overestimated the idea of having viable successors there. To me, it seems like we're still missing the point, because even after Libya, you guys went on to Syria wanting to do the same thing again, and you've argued, well, maybe we just didn't do enough. If we'd done more, we could have toppled Assad and we could have had real regime change in Syria. Well, you got it in Iraq, you got it in Libya, and it's a disaster. The lesson of these wars is that regime change doesn't work. People say, oh, we're going to get rid of the iron fist, and Thomas Jefferson's going to arise from the ashes. Well, that is a naive notion to believe that Thomas Jefferson or his like live in Libya or live in Iraq. Their tradition is so much different than ours. I mean, we've been fighting against centralized power in the English tradition for 1,000 years. The revolution in England was 350 years ago. Ours was 250 years ago. That tradition they don't have. They have a tribal existence. You trade one for another. But mostly what you've gotten through the policies you have advocated, and Joe Biden has advocated, and frankly, John Bolton has advocated, this idea of regime change has been a disaster for the Middle East. We complain, everybody around here is concerned, Iran, Iran, Iran. Well, why? Iraq. We did that. We had a balance of power. It wasn't perfect, but we had somewhat of a balance of power in the Middle East, and you guys messed it up. You got rid of the one bad guy, and another bad guy got stronger. And so then you went to Libya and did the same thing. And they said, well, maybe Libya's a one-off. Well, maybe there's a rule here. Maybe there's something we can learn about regime change, and maybe we can learn that humility would be that maybe we shouldn't be choosing every government in the Middle East. I would argue that instead of always choosing the governments, maybe we should not reward the bad ones. You know what I mean? So, for example, with Saudi Arabia, I despise the regime. I'd probably still trade with them. I probably wouldn't cut them off completely. I wouldn't sell them any more arms. And after they killed Khashoggi, they shouldn't have got one bit of our armaments. But both sides advocate for this. On UAE, we tried to stop that because UAE has a terrible human rights record. Both sides support it. The problem around here is we have bipartisan consensus. The problem isn't lack of consensus. The problem is Are any of the lessons you've learned from the failure of Iraq war, Libyan war, the chaos, the vacuum, and more terrorism that occurred and more lives that were lost, and then to go on to Syria? I don't get that there's been a lesson learned. Is there any kind of lesson learned on your part that regime change may not be the best thing for us in the Middle East?
Senator, I think we and I certainly have an absolute obligation to try to learn from everything we've done, advocated, to take into account the results, and to make that.
I think. Shut the fuck up, you warmonger piece of shit. It's a simple question. Have you learned your lesson not to fuck with other countries? Yes or no? I think we all have an obligation. Shut the fuck up, man. This is the fucking lesser of two evils. He just gave you 15 fucking million examples of how the United States has destroyed other countries, destroyed Syria, destroyed Libya, destroyed Iraq. When are you going to get the fucking message through your head, asshole? How can you sit there and fucking justify this? How fucking psychotic and evil do you have to be to try and justify that shit? The death toll has to be in the billions for you to fucking get it? What? How much money do you have to fucking make until you agree with this? It's insane that Rand Paul is the only normal fucking person in the room talking sense about the Middle East. That's an issue. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. This is it, man. This is Uncle Joe's Rainbow Coalition death cult, right? This is your diversity. Diversity in what? Maybe gender, sex, race. Diversity in policy? No. He just said it himself. He just said it himself. We have too much bipartisan consensus on war. That's not a good thing. You know why? Because you shouldn't be bombing other countries, you motherfucker. 10 fucking years now, Syria has been destroyed. 10 fucking years, Libya. 20 fucking years, Iraq, Afghanistan. What a prick. Only a prick can sit in that chair and try to justify that shit. No fucking plan, no empathy, no reparations, nothing. Again, fuck you and fuck Joe Biden and all these war criminals in his cabinet. You got an issue when Rand Paul is the only sane person in the room talking sense on this shit. Because I listened to 4 hours of that hearing and it's nothing but a bunch of fucking assholes jerking each other off, talking about, oh yeah, we got to be more hawkish on Iran. We got to be more hawkish on Russia. We got to be more hawkish on China. We got to put sanctions on Venezuela. We got to fucking intervene in every country till there's no more countries left and we own everything. Fucking psychotic death cult, man. Unbelievable.
Inform how we think about these problems going forward. And I've done a lot of hard thinking.
Oh, he's done a lot of hard thinking. He's done a lot of hard thinking. He's done a lot of hard thinking. Wow. Yeah, that's going to bring back all the dead people in Iraq and Libya and Syria and you know, all the people starving from sanctions. It's okay. They can rest at ease knowing that they've done a lot of hard thinking.
Inform how we think about these problems going forward. And I've done a lot of hard thinking.
Motherfucker.
About some of the very situations you mentioned. I'm proud of the fact that I have spent all of my career during the times I've been in government for the better part of 25 years, working to advance our diplomacy, to do everything we possibly can.
You're not answering the question.
To make sure that diplomacy is the first answer, not the last answer, and that war and conflict is a last resort.
The next step was Syria. The next step was the Syrian civil war, which looks a lot like the Iraq war and the Libyan war.
In Syria, there were those who were advocating for a repeat of of Iraq, which is to say a whole-scale intervention. That's something that I did not agree with when we were looking at what to do in Afghanistan.
But here's the problem in Syria. There was a predictable result there. Had you gotten rid of Assad, who were the fiercest fighters over there? Al-Nusra and Al-Qaeda. The more radical you were, the better fighters you were. The program that you started with Hillary Clinton, the program to train the moderate rebels, we spent $250 million. We trained about 60. We sent 10 of them into battle, and they were captured in the first 10 minutes. It was a complete disaster. This whole idea that there were moderates over there that we were going to support, doctors and lawyers and stuff, there were, but I don't think they were out there fighting. The ones out there fighting were jihadists, Al-Qaeda, Al-Nusra, and if they'd have taken over the country, Assad's a terrible person, but I'm not positive that these people would have been better. So, I mean, it's the same lesson. Our humility has to be, let's quit toppling regimes over there. Let's don't support the bad ones, but let's don't presume enough that if we topple them, that in the vacuum, Thomas Jefferson is going to arise, because it never seems to happen.
Why does he get it? Why does he get it? Why is Rand Paul the only person in the room who gets it? You heard what he said. Everything on point. All of it, from start to fucking finish. Why is he the only person in that room who understands? They all understand. They all fucking know this. You think I know this? You think Rand Paul knows this and Tony Blinken doesn't know this? They all know it. They don't give a shit. They don't give a shit. Again, Rand Paul, I mean, never struck me as the brightest person exactly. You remember he wrote this book? What was it called again? The Case Against Socialism? I did a video about it, and you went on The View trying to promote it, and it's just dumbest crap. Regardless, he's on point. I mean, he's on point. That was the choice at the end of the day. Who are the hardest fighters in Syria? Al-Nusra Front, Jabhat al-Nusra, Al-Qaeda, right? And ISIS, the jihadists, the hardliners, excuse me. These people were the battle-hardened ones making gains, who were actually ending up taking over territory and incorporating the other factions into theirs and growing stronger and also being funded by other countries. That was the choice. He's telling you, why did you prefer to boost fucking jihadists, fanatics, and how could you possibly rationalize that as a good decision? And this prick is sitting here and going, I did a lot of hard thinking. Kharai alik, kharai alik, kharai alik, sharmuta wate. I'm astonished. I'm really astonished that there is only one person in this room who gets what's going on, and it's Rand fucking Paul. It's like a cartoon. It really is. It's really a cartoon, man. And I don't think they're done. I think they go on to say some more. If you'll excuse me, let me just find it again.
Contemplated or cited in the AMF.
Oh, we just can't pass these treaties, so we're going to make all these.
Right. So I know what happened here. So, just to summarize, Rand Paul, he then goes on to ask him about the AUMF, the authorization for use of military force. Okay, so this is, you got one from 2001, 2003. This is what was signed before the invasions of Afghanistan and Iraq. Okay, and they've been using that ever since. Every president, all of them, Trump, Obama, Biden, they've been using that as the framework to go fucking wild. And he tells him, there's nothing in the AUMF about Yemen or Mali or Syria or any of these countries. There's nothing in there that gives you the right to start military action and engage in other countries. And again, I remind you, even if it said that, even if the entire US Congress, every single person in the House and every single person in the Senate and the president and every single American fucking citizen signed a document saying that we're going to go bomb all 190 plus countries. It doesn't mean anything. It's void. US law does not take precedence over international law. You can't just do whatever the fuck you like because your Congress voted to do it. Your Congress is not the world police. Your Congress does not own the fucking planet. Okay? So your authorization for use of military force means fuck all. Jack shit. It's a piece of worthless, shitty paper. You know why? Because Iraq is not in the fucking United States, you fucking dumb motherfucker. Neither is Afghanistan, neither is Yemen, neither is Somalia, and all the other dozens of countries that you're bombing, you fucking asshole. All right? And so he asks a very poignant question, Rand Paul, that even in your own twisted logic, you did not have the right to do that in the AUMF. But of course, Blinken doesn't agree with him like a normal fucking sane person would. No, he goes like, we've been thinking hard about it. Well done. Well done. This is what it is, man. The same foreign policy, more of the same imperialism. They are not going to change a goddamn thing. They're not going to change a goddamn thing. And they can't even own up to their previous mistakes. And hold on, there's one more thing I wanted to show you. There's one more thing I wanted to show you about Libya, where he talks about Libya. Okay?
With regard to Libya, here was the situation we faced. We had Muammar Gaddafi saying that he was going to slaughter like rats those opposing him, including all of the inhabitants of Benghazi. And we faced what looked like the potential for a mass atrocity that was heading our way. And what was unique about the moment was the United Nations supported doing something about it, the Security Council, the partners and allies in the region did, and our allies in Europe did too. Having said that, and so I think the good news from where I sat, and I supported that effort. In fact, I think it's been written about. I was the President-elect's National Security Advisor at the time, and he did not agree with that course of action. And so, but we had the kind of relationship where I was able to say what I thought, and as you noted, we intervened. Here's what I think we misjudged. First, we didn't fully appreciate the fact that one of the things Gaddafi had done over the years was to make sure that there was no possible rival to his power. And as a result, there was no effective bureaucracy, no effective administration in Libya with which to work when he was gone. That made things much more challenging than I think we understood.
Okay, so again, because I want to step, so basically there was no plan afterwards. That's something, that's a lesson you've learned.
I think there was a plan that ran into some reality that unfortunately the result has been that there's been more space in Libya for extremist groups who filled some of the vacuum left by Gaddafi.
Okay, one of the things.
Oh man, that's so crazy, you know? It's almost as if the exact same fucking shit happened in Iraq 10 years before and you did not learn your lesson. Right? What does Paul Brennan do when he gets to Iraq? Right after the invasion in 2003? He bans and dissolves the Ba'ath Party. And you might be thinking, well, that's a good thing because that's Saddam Hussein's party. Why should it be kept? Well, I mean, first of all, it's not Americans. I mean, would you be okay with Iraq invading you and just deciding to dissolve all of your political parties? I'm pretty sure you'd be pissed. Regardless, that's not the point. The point is you had people of all walks of life who are members of the Ba'ath Party, people in the military, teachers, you name it. And these people are now all out of a job. Hundreds of thousands of people out of jobs. You got men, able-bodied men, no job. Why? Because the US government just decided to dissolve the fucking government. No institutions, just creating a vacuum, not just a power vacuum, but also an institutional vacuum. And he's saying, oh man, well look, Libya, we got into, you remember the line from Pulp Fiction? We got into this thing with the best intentions. Yeah, okay. Shut the fuck up, Brett. He's saying, oh, we didn't know that we would run into this thing. And it's Gaddafi's fault. Even after we, ruined the country. No, it's his fault, even though he's already dead. Because he made sure that there was no infrastructure in place to take over after him. Then why did you intervene, you stupid fuck? Again, you did the same shit in Iraq, and worse, I would argue, a decade before. You know what happens. No, they don't give a fuck. They know exactly what's going to happen. They don't care. Look at Libya to this day. It's just a war-torn wasteland. Look at what has happened there. You have fucking slave trades now because of what the US did. And he sits there and still fucking justifies it in 2021. It's not like, oh yeah, I'm deeply remorseful. I regret what we did. It was terrible. We won't do that ever again because we've learned our lessons. And then he would maybe explain what the fuck I just explained to you, which they all know. They all fucking know. No, it's like, oh, no, we got into this thing with the best intentions. And by the way, it's Gaddafi's fault, even though he's dead. This is unfucking believable, man. These people are psychopaths. They are murderers. They are fucking war criminals. And you can see that no matter how many people die, no matter what happens, no matter how many countries they set on fire, they will never apologize. They will never admit guilt. They will never even change their policies. They're given a chance once again now to be in power. They're not going to do anything differently. Who's going to pay for Libya? Why aren't you telling me about how you're going to rebuild Libya? I mean, again, be careful what you wish for, because when they talk about rebuilding countries, that means you do what we say and you put these guys that we want in power, or else you're getting no money, right? But the point is here, where's the reparations? None. Nothing. It's like, yeah, we fucked up, whatever, give me my job. Four hours of this circle jerk. Even when there are crimes, war crimes brought up, they just give him a pass. There's no such thing as Democrat. There's no such thing as Republican. There's only the uni-party, the one-party system, whatever the fuck you want to call it. There's the empire. There's absolutely zero difference. And again, I'm absolutely bewildered how Rand Paul is the only motherfucker making sense in that room. Unreal. I mean, it's like an Onion article. It's just... But don't worry, guys. Remember, lesser of two evils. It's the lesser of two evils. Right? All right, so Christ Almighty. Yemen. I want to talk about Yemen. I just need some water. Excuse me a second. So, let me pull this up because we have several. Okay. Yemen is on the brink of famine. And again, that's not, I don't say that lightly. The more correct assessment is Yemen is on the brink of the worst, largest famine in decades. Decades. 90% of the food in Yemen is imported. Okay? It doesn't come through the UN or Save the Children or Doctors Without Borders or any of the relief agencies. It's just logistically impossible for them to replace the commercial traders. 90% of the food is imported. Okay? 80% of the population in Yemen is living in the Houthi areas. Okay? All the way in the west. Pompeo, Trump, in the last days before they're out of office, what do they go and do? They go and sanction the Houthi movement, or also known as Ansar Allah, okay? What do you think that's going to do to the 80% of the Yemeni population that are living in Houthi areas? Because now if you're a bank, if you're a banker, if you're a trader, if you're a supplier, if you go and trade now with Yemen, particularly the Houthi area, the United States is going to slap you with fines. They might even jail you. So you're going to be like, no, I'm not touching that. What do you think that's going to do when 90% of the food is imported? Where's the food going to come from? The aid agencies, the UN, the World Food Program, OCHA, Save the Children, Doctors Without Borders, the best they can do, man, they give vouchers, they give cash to the Yemenis to go and buy food, right? Again, you can't do anything with those vouchers and with the cash if there's no food, because now the sanctions have scared off all of the suppliers, the traders, the bankers. So everyone is calling on Biden to reverse this, okay? This is, sorry, the wrong window. I'm trying to pull up an article. And we'll get to Blinken in a second because he talks about this. But right. So this is from France 24. They say 22 aid groups working in Yemen urged U.S. President Joe Biden on Sunday to remove the war-torn country's Houthi rebels from a terror blacklist, saying it could put millions of lives at risk. Okay? So this includes Mercy Corps, Oxfam, Save the Children, and many of the groups that I just mentioned to you. The UN has called what's happening in Yemen the world's worst humanitarian disaster. And this is not just from now. This has been going on for years, since 2015. Okay, you got over 230,000 people killed. Most of the people that have been killed in Yemen did not die from bombs or bullets. They died from things that were absolutely preventable, from malnourishment, from famine, from diseases. Think about that for a second. Yes, those were caused by war, but there's still indirect causes. You understand? So the number of people that are already suffering is enormous. 2/3 of Yemenis don't have food. Access to clean water, same number. I mean, lack of healthcare. There's so much wrong. So for Trump and Pompeo to come here at the last minute and do this shit on top of it, I mean, this is evil. Evil. Antony Blinken, Biden's pick for Secretary of State, said at his confirmation hearing that he would immediately review the Trump administration's labeling of the insurgents. Okay, so let me play that clip for you.
Examining some of our relationships in the region that have become more complicated by their human rights records.
First, Senator, we need to be clear-eyed about the Houthis. They overthrew a government in Yemen. They engaged in a path of aggression through the country. They directed aggression toward Saudi Arabia. They've committed atrocities and human rights abuses, and that is a fact. What's also a fact, though, is that the Saudi-led campaign in Yemen to push back against the Houthi aggression has contributed to what is, by most accounts, the worst humanitarian situation that we face anywhere in the world. And one aspect of that situation is that about 80% of the Yemeni population right now is in areas controlled by the Houthis. And whether we like it or not, we have to find ways to get assistance to them if we're going to do anything about addressing this situation. And so my concern, deep concern about the designation that was made, is that, at least on its surface, it seems to achieved nothing particularly practical in advancing the efforts against the Houthis and to bring them back to the negotiating table, while making it even more difficult than it already is to provide humanitarian assistance to people who desperately need it. So I think we would propose to review that immediately to make sure that what we are doing is not impeding the provision of humanitarian assistance even under these difficult circumstances. I recognize that some have talked about carve-outs for American providers of humanitarian assistance. The problem there is that if the carve-outs don't apply to everyone around the world, it's not going to get the job done, because most of the humanitarian assistance provided to Yemen is not coming from the United States, it's coming from other countries. So I think we've got a very specific and concrete problem that we need to address very quickly if we're going to make sure we're doing everything we can to alleviate the suffering of people in Yemen.
Thank you for that answer. I need to move forward.
Now, here's the thing, man. Here's the problem. Even Mike Pompeo is saying, yeah, we're going to make exemptions. We're going to hand out licenses for aid agencies and those providing relief and humanitarian work. They didn't give them anything. So the sanctions were announced on the 10th, I believe, of January, and then they came into effect on the 19th. The aid agencies, the UN, you name it, all of these NGOs, were told nothing about how this is going to work until the day that the sanctions came into effect. I mean, what the fuck is that? What is that? And once again, I reiterate what I said before. Giving an exemption to, let's say, UNICEF or the World Food Program or OCHA or Save the Children, whatever. They're not the ones importing the food. It doesn't fucking help because they can't replace the commercial trade system. Do you understand? They're not the ones who need the exemptions. I mean, they do, of course, obviously, primarily, but it's not going to solve the food issue. God damn it. Those agencies were already operating in Yemen. Yes? If they were able to replace and adequately feed the Yemenis, 80% of the Yemeni population, which is under Houthi control areas, there wouldn't be food insecurity in Yemen to begin with. But again, this would still be, these new sanctions would still be horrible and still cause widespread suffering and famine. And I mean, again, I want to show you pictures so you understand how bad it is. But again, I don't know if YouTube lets me. But you should go on Google and look up photographs of children in Yemen. I mean, just look at that. And they want to make that even worse now. What the fuck is Biden doing? What is he waiting for? That's what I want to know. In any case, they say they've already launched a review. Okay, so this is from CNN. January 22nd, Biden administration launches review of Trump decision to designate Yemen's Houthis as an FTO, a foreign terrorist organization, which comes with sanctions. And hold on, let me zoom in so you can actually see that. My window's disappeared. There we go. Okay. So again, this is talking about Blinken, and they said they're going to do a review immediately. They're not telling us what the review is, however. They're not saying. And, you know, if you were listening carefully, just one thing before I go forward with this. If you're listening carefully to Blinken, he didn't say, we're going to withdraw complete total support for Saudi Arabia, for the Saudi-led coalition, which has been bombing Yemen with the UAE, with Qatar, and of course with American, British, Canadian, French, German bombs. He didn't say that, right? He said, we're going to consider removing military support, which is one of Biden's campaign promises. Okay, what about this? This is what you need to pay attention to. Sanctions are killing people. This is siege warfare. Do you understand? Look at how many children died in Iraq. You have Madeleine Albright saying, yes, it's worth the cost, killing 500,000 children with sanctions, not bombs. So and if you listen to the whole hearing, he's also asked about Saudi Arabia by other senators, and he reaffirms, yeah, this is an ally. We don't agree with them all the time, but we're going to keep supporting them. No, you need to fucking cut that shit completely. Not just withdraw military support and then maybe leave the sanctions. I find this astonishing how they need to review this as if the Trump administration didn't do their own assessments, as if they don't know what is going to happen. I mean, on principle alone, you should not be doing this. On principle alone. If I just told you all of these figures, these facts, which come from the United Nations, which come from OCHA, also part of the UN, which come from UNICEF, which come from the organizations on the ground in Yemen. We all know this. You think the United States doesn't know this? What the fuck are they waiting for? The State Department spokesperson said that they strongly believe that Ansar Allah, another name for the Houthis, needs to change its behavior, adding that it bears significant responsibility for the humanitarian catastrophe and insecurity in Yemen. At the same time, we must also ensure that we are not impeding the provision of humanitarian assistance. Again, Pompeo said, this is what I just told you. Pompeo said in a statement announcing the designation, the U.S. was planning to put in place measures to reduce their impact on certain humanitarian activity and imports into Yemen. We have expressed our readiness to work with relevant officials at the UN, with international and non-governmental organizations and other international donors to address these implications. However, humanitarian organizations and lawmakers express serious concerns that the measures would not be sufficient, and they're not. Again, they are not telling you the full story. They're not giving you the full picture here, right? So they'll give out licenses, maybe, and exemptions to the UN, to Doctors Without Borders, but that's not fixing the problem. And they don't even talk about that in this article, that the commercial, the commerce and trade can't be taken over by the aid agencies. And that's not me saying that. I'm not saying that myself. This is from Mark Lovecock, okay? The general coordinator for relief in Yemen. So these are the people that are running the operations telling you this shit is not going to fly. It's horrible. It's really horrible. And of course, just look at what happened to Syria, for example. Look at the sanctions in Syria, right? I mean, you have the war to consider as well, equally in Yemen, but you have 10 years of war, foreign jihadists coming in, God knows how many countries, dozens of countries running bombing campaigns. And Syria is a country that could grow its own food, that was self-sufficient. Didn't need to rely on anyone. No need to import anything. I mean, of course, they're importing things, but when it comes to wheat, for example, Syria is an exporter of wheat. It had the surplus. You had a drought for a few years. But my point is, what I'm trying to get to here is if Syria has been reduced to breadlines now because of the war, because of sanctions, what the fuck do you think is going to happen to Yemen, which is already importing 90% of its food and is already, got 2/3 of its population food insecure? I mean, this is absurdly criminal. It's a genocide. And the fact that you have people saying, like, oh, well, Biden just got elected. Just give him some time, man. Give him some time. You have to be patient. The people in the squad, they just got elected. You have to be patient. I want you to go without food for 2 weeks and see if you like it. See how patient you are after 2 weeks with no clean water and no food. Never mind a couple of years, okay? I want to see how fucking patient you are. Why do people think that this is okay for Yemenis or Syrians or Iranians or Venezuelans to just wait? Who said that they have to wait and go hungry because you don't want to hold your politicians accountable? What the fuck is that? Like, listen to yourself. You sound like a fucking lunatic. You have zero empathy. People are starving. Can you last without food for 2 weeks or more? Would you accept that? Would you allow that? Why do you allow it to others? Why do you think it's okay? Why do you insulate politicians from criticism? Why do you give them time? There is no fucking time. And the same applies for healthcare. Why should someone who has diabetes go without insulin? They also have fucking time? Why should Joe Biden and other politicians be given time? They've been in government their whole fucking lives. If you got a job, are you allowed to do nothing on your first day of work? You would get fired immediately. So why is the man who gets the most important job in the country allowed to do nothing? This is bullshit. A review? No, you don't need a review. You need to reverse it. You go to Congress, you get it done. Once again, if Donald Trump, hypothetically, just hypothetically, if he had sanctioned Israel, which he would never do, but if he had sanctioned Israel or the United Kingdom the day before he left office, Joe Biden would, that's the first fucking thing, executive order that he would sign, the first order of business in Congress that he would attend to is reversing that. So don't fucking sit there and tell me that, oh, there's time and you have to be patient. Go and fuck yourself. They always got excuses, man. They always got excuses for politicians doing nothing. It's astounding. It really is astounding. All right, we still got some more to go through. I kindly ask you guys to support the show if you can, whether it's on Patreon or whether it's on whatever. I mean, whatever's good for you. Rockfin, PayPal, we got it all. And by the way, I think right now we are at 392. No, that's wrong, man. Hold on, I'm forgetting. 395. Check that out. We're 5 members away from hitting our goal. So I want to play a crab dance. For Jose. Thank you so much for signing up to support the show. I really appreciate it. Y'all need to show some love.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard.
Corn Pop was a bad dude, and he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line. Claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Hey, why you texting? Wait. You're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it. I yield my time. Fuck you.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And I'll get to your super chats in a second. I just want to talk about something else. Julian Assange. Wait, hold on. It's not recording. Yeah. Okay. So Julian Assange. Donald Trump did not pardon him, nor Edward Snowden. During the last few days of his tenure, he drew up a list about 100 names of people that he would pardon. Some of them were his friends, of course. You also have some weird ones. I saw Lil Wayne, also, and Kodak Black. They also got a pardon from Trump, which is probably in exchange for endorsing him, you know? Who knows? I also heard a rumor you could buy one, which would not surprise me. I don't know if they paid for it or not, but in any case, they got a little favor from Trump, right? I think Lil Wayne's facing something like 10 years on a gun charge, something like that. Anyway, the point is, nothing for Assange. This is a real shame. I was expecting that. I think it was still worth it that, we tried. So many people tried. Man, you had Jimmy going on Tucker Carlson making the case. Glenn, Stella Morris, who's Julian Assange's partner, she also pleaded with Trump for clemency many times. All over social media. Many people, Pamela Anderson. We all tried, man. And I think even if there was a 0.0001% chance, it's still better than doing nothing and then having 0% chance. It's a shame. It's really a shame. Now, there are people saying that the reason this happened, let me show you. This is a clip from Tucker Carlson, also making the case for Assange. Pay attention.
Cases tonight, as one of his final acts as president, Donald Trump has the opportunity to make that right, to pardon both of them. We told you that last night. We told you it before. We're hearing tonight that neither man, particularly Julian Assange, we don't know if this is true, is likely to get a pardon. Why? Well, apparently because Republicans in the Senate, and by Republicans in the Senate we mean Mitch McConnell of Kentucky, the leader of Republicans in the Senate, has sent word over to the White House, if you pardon Julian Assange, we are much more likely to convict you in an impeachment trial. Now, is it legal to hold that over a president's head? We're not lawyers, we don't know. It's certainly wrong. But more than that, it tells you everything about their priorities. At a time when this country in some ways is coming apart, we're at a pivot point in American history. And if you're watching this show, you probably feel pretty threatened, and for good reason. There are people on the other channels saying they're going to hunt you down like a terrorist. At that moment, what is Mitch McConnell, your designated defender in the United States Senate, worrying about? He's worrying about protecting the uniparty in Washington, not his party and the Democratic Party in permanent Washington. They're the reason both these men have been locked up, because both these men embarrassed permanent Washington. That's their crime. And his priority in the final hours of the Trump administration is to make certain that they remain punished for doing that. It tells you everything. We don't know what's going to happen in the end. We've got a number of hours left for the president to make that decision. But we want you to know how that decision is being made, because it's deeply revealing.
Yeah, it is deeply revealing. You also had a statement from Cassandra Fairbanks. So she actually testified during the Assange extradition. She said, hearing a pardon for Julian is being blocked by Pat Cipollone. I'm not sure if I'm saying that correctly. She goes on to say, if you know him, get him on the phone and talk some sense into him, please. He is telling Trump that he will piss off the Senate and they will move to indict him for incitement to get back at him if he pardons Julian. This is batshit insanity. They will do it anyways. I mean, Christ. Donald Trump is a cuck. Donald Trump is a bitch. And he has shown that so many times. And it is hilarious how many of his supporters view him as being anti-establishment and anti-war and anti-interventionist. No, he's a bitch from day one. He was doing the bidding of the military-industrial complex. He bombed Iran. He bombed Syria. He bombed Yemen and Afghanistan even more than Obama did, which is, I mean, in of itself astronomical. Then he goes and gets Julian Assange indicted. I mean, to say that the guy is anti-establishment is lunacy. Lunacy. He's a cuck. He is a cuck. He's an obedient cuck. And I don't think the irony is lost on anyone that in his final days as president, you know, he gets banned and deplatformed by Silicon Valley, which is an extension, which is an arm of the national security state, right? And he still does nothing. He still does nothing. Amazing. Amazing. Here's a tweet by Glenn, which I think puts it quite succinctly. Trump left the White House about as weak, cucked, and submissive as it's possible for a grown adult to scamper away. Yep. Here's Kim.com.
Julian will be freed this year, pardon or not. We'll keep fighting and keep up the pressure. Thank you.
Definitely. And I do agree with him. Our numbers have grown. I mean, I think that in the last year, again, I don't think it's been enough pressure and enough just yet, but definitely, I think the numbers have grown just of the people aware of what's happening to Julian Assange. I mean, even Sarah Palin came around, of all people, and says that, despite being in his WikiLeaks publications at one point, she's making the case for him now, right? So I think Julian's case has definitely reached more people now, and I don't think you should be discouraged by what Trump did, because it was expected. I mean, just a few days before, about 2 weeks before, he pardoned 4 Blackwater mercenaries who committed a massacre in Iraq, and I mean, Christ Almighty. Remember, this is before his big list with the 100 names. And when I saw that, I was like, well, yeah, I mean, I'm not holding out much hope, unfortunately. When I was talking to Chris Hedges also said, like, when it comes to Julian getting pardoned, I mean, not a big chance. Probably a bigger chance of Trump doing it than Biden. And Kevin said the same thing to me, Kevin Gostola. But even then, it's still a slim chance. It's unfortunate, man. You have to remember, this guy, Assange, is sitting in maximum security prison. He's not serving a sentence. He's not been charged with anything. How can you call that a liberal democracy or a functioning justice system? I mean, not only are they infringing upon him as a journalist, right, for holding power accountable, but his legal rights are being trampled on. He's not serving a sentence. He's not charged with, he's not guilty of a crime. What the fuck is he doing in a jail? Never mind a maximum security prison. What is that? What is that? No sane person can justify that shit. It's a political witch hunt. That's what it is. So again, it's really disappointing, but what did you expect? It's Trump. I mean, he's a piece of shit, just like every US president. And so this is once again another issue, just like with Yemen, which is something where you wonder, like, okay, well, what are you going to do about it? We kept hearing that Joe Biden is more humane and, he's going to take a different approach from Trump and he's going to be a breath of fresh air and now democracy is restored. Where is it? Where is it? People in Yemen don't have time. People in Syria, Venezuela, Iran, they don't have time. Sanctions don't wait. Sanctions kill. Julian Assange, okay, he's one person compared to the millions, but still, nonetheless, he's been under arbitrary detention for 10 years now, basically, almost 2 years now in Belmarsh. He also has health conditions. He's also not doing well. And not to mention that there's an affront, an attack on press freedoms. What are you waiting for? Are you going to drop the charges? What's going on here? Again, Blue MAGA. I really hope he drops them. I hope something happens. I hope I'm proven wrong, but I'm not holding out any hope. And this is really heartbreaking. You see Blackwater mercenaries, war criminals, just scum who murdered civilians, who murdered children, who murdered people just going about their daily business, getting a pardon from Trump. And Julian Assange, who exposes people like that, who exposes crimes like that. Yeah, well, horrible. It's really horrible. But anyway, like Kim.com said, we keep fighting. We're not stopping. We keep fighting. And I really hope Assange is free soon. I really do. So, all right, we got one more segment to do. This is a very big one, a very good one. And I've been saving it for last. And with that said, I'll be right back because I need to go to the bathroom. Please support the show while I'm gone. We're on our way to getting. Yo, look at this, man. Look at this. We got one more patron just signed up. Thank you, Mario. And I think we're just 4 people away from hitting our goal. So let's get there, guys. We got this. I'll be right back. Alrighty. Guys, so thank you for the super chats. I'll get to them at the very end. Keep them coming, and I will answer and read every one of them. So, okay. Right, so the U.S. is still plundering and stealing oil in Syria. Of course. Let me show you this headline. This is from January 22nd. U.S. military convoy enters northeast Syria. How many times have I read that headline this year? Well, we're in 2021 now. Let's say the last few months. Many times. Countless times. I cannot even keep up. I wrote about it also on Twitter. This is one of the pictures of the convoy. It's about 40 trucks, right? So you got armored vehicles, all sorts of other logistical equipment. And where are they headed? The oil fields. And I'm not saying that like, oh yeah, they're here to take our oil. No, they're headed to the oil fields. That's the only place that they're occupying. Well, you also have Al Tanaf Air Base, which is to the southeast of Damascus. But we're talking about northeastern Syria, right? So Hasake, Deir ez-Zor, where you have the oil. And also it's the breadbasket region where most things used to be grown before they destroyed Syria. So let me just show you over here the map. I had a map pulled up. Here we go. There we are. Perfect. Yeah, so this is what I'm talking about. This is a Hasake province, okay? And Deir ez-Zor is down here. They have, the Americans have bases all over, right? So you have the Omar oil fields. These are the largest ones. They're also up here in Sweda. They're also down here in Deir ez-Zor. And Al Tanaf is over here, if I recall correctly, somewhere over here. But there's no oil there. That's just an airbase. So this map is a tad bit outdated because of, I'm talking about the legend, which you can't see, referring to which areas are controlled by whom, right? So Syrian army, rebel groups, most of this area, everything here, okay, this is controlled by the Syrian government now. I mean, there's like a tiny pocket here of rebel, Free Syrian Army, where incidentally this airbase is, but most of this is back under government control. And you have the Kurds here, and you have like 20,000 jihadists in Idlib, which the media, of course, does not call them that. They call them moderate rebels. I'm not kidding. You have like 30,000 jihadists in that one spot, right? Because what the Syrian government would do when they would capture them is they would ship them off in these buses, and they dumped all of these jihadists in one place in Idlib. So, and of course, Turkey is backing them. Anyway, so just going back to this story from 3 days ago, which is like the day after Biden got inaugurated, you had the Americans coming in through the El Walid crossing, which is basically, they're coming in from Iraq, right? They're just shipping in logistics. And this is going on all the time. This is not something new. This is happening all the goddamn time for months now. You remember Donald Trump, when he pulled out of Syria, he didn't pull out. He kept troops where the oil fields are. He said, we're keeping the oil. We have control of the oil. But no one cared. And now all of a sudden you have these Trump supporters here going, Biden's been president for 1 day and he's already sending troops back to Syria and Iraq. Where's the anti-war left? Oh, so now you care about Syria all of a sudden? Really? Really? You care about us? That's so sweet of you. That's so kind of you. Well, I agree with her. Where is the anti-war left? We don't have one. Not really, in any case. Yeah, I mean, this is just... She didn't give a crap about Syria and Iraq. This is just like, oh, look at Biden. No, Trump was doing it. And you either know that and you're being dishonest or you're an idiot. Donald Trump Jr. on Twitter, look. Donald Trump is the first president in modern history who did not start a war. You sure about that? Are you sure about that? I think the only reason there wasn't a new war is because Iran did not give in to the provocations, murdering General Soleimani, flying a drone over their airspace, doing a show of force with B-52 bombers and a nuclear-powered submarine, slapping them with sanctions, pulling out of the JCPOA, and on and on and on and on and on and on. And of course, all the deaths from sanctions. I mean, Christ. And then, let me just play you again the clip of Lindsey Graham talking to Pompeo, and this is back in August. And they're openly confirming, yes, we are stealing the oil, and we made a deal. Here it is.
Thank you very much. The Caesars Act, thank you for using it quickly and in a holding Assad's son accountable is a great first step in what I think will be a long journey to punish this regime. Is more coming?
Yes, Senator.
Thank you. Great job. I talked to General Mazloon yesterday with the SDF. Apparently, they've signed a deal with an American oil company to modernize the oil fields in northeastern Syria. Are you supportive of that?
We are.
That'd be a great way to help everybody in northeastern Syria.
The deal took a little longer, Senator, than we had hoped, and we're in implementation. It could be very powerful.
You've been terrific in that regard.
They're so shameless. They're just like openly admitting to stealing and plundering oil. Like it's nothing, Yes, we're a bunch of colonial bastards and, it's whatever, of course. And then Pompeo's like, oh, the deal took a little bit longer than usual. We're sorry about that, by the way, but everything's okay now. We're stealing the oil, so don't worry. Right? So keep in mind, this is not, when he says modernizing the oil fields, stealing the oil. Who's the beneficiary? An American company, Delta Crescent Energy. This is based in Delaware, right? So the OFAC, the Treasury Department, they give them a license that exempts them from sanctions, saying that, yeah, you can go and steal the oil in Syria. because as everybody knows, Syria is inside of the United States, right? So of course the United States has the authority to do such things. They're so fucking shameless, man. And again, I want to remind you, it's not just absurd on that level. The US government provided modular refineries, okay? And they also used the US military to truck them in. What do you call that? When you have a country that's using its military to help private corporations, and together they go and steal resources from black and brown countries. That's imperialism. That's vanilla, classic imperialism. It's just same old colonial bullshit. No fucking different. And they're just openly saying it in a Senate hearing, like as if it's nothing. It's okay. You know why? I'll tell you why, man. Me as a Syrian, I'm overcome with joy when I see American tanks entering Syria now that we finally have some women and a black Secretary of Defense in Uncle Joe's Rainbow Coalition death cult. Now it's okay, man. You know, honestly, I was annoyed when Trump was doing it, when he was stealing the oil, but now that we have such a diverse death cult in Washington, D.C., I can rest assured that everything is fine. Everything is okay. Oh, God. So the Syrian ambassador to the UN, or permanent representative, Al-Jafari, he told Biden immediately, get out of Syria and stop stealing the oil. It's funny because if you go and read the headlines about it, they report it as if it's something controversial. Like, what is controversial about that? You should not be in other people's shit stealing their oil. Like, there's nothing controversial about that. It's crazy, right? The world is upside down in many regards, truly. And this is a very good caricature over here. I think this is quite accurate. Uncle Sam never changes. Only the mask does. Good, right? Good. So, yeah, going back to this map over here, they're basically, the US, they're controlling the oil fields with the Kurdish-led SDF, so everything in Hasakeh and Deir ez-Zor. So it's not just about stealing the oil, which, you know, is a valuable resource in of itself. It's like 25%, it's a quarter of all the government's revenue, but also the crops, right? This is the area where everything is grown. Cotton, lentils, wheat. The soil is most rich in this area. And of course, that's all been disrupted. And you have them hoarding it. And Syrians are starving. And I mean, it's a clusterfuck, right? You have a military occupation. You have jihadists running around. You have the oil being plundered. You have sanctions that have fucked the economy. And there's hyperinflation. The Lebanese banks, they're frozen. So all of these Syrian businesses that would go through Lebanese banks, they have billions of dollars stuck in there. And now you have bread lines in Syria. You know, like 10 years ago, $1, that's like 60 or 65 Syrian pounds. We'll call them lira as well. Just to give you an idea, what can you buy with 65 lira? I don't know, like a can of Pepsi, 15 or 20 lira, bag of chips, bag of crisps, 10 liras. You know, you can do stuff, man. Now it's 3,500. $1 is 3,500 Syrian pounds. And this country that used to have excess wheat, was a net exporter of wheat, has bread lines. I mean, what the fuck? And you want me to sit here and you want me to be like, oh yeah, Joe Biden is the lesser of two evils. To who? Explain to whom he's the lesser of two evils. It's the same evil, you motherfucker. I mean, I just showed you the comments from his Secretary of State Blinken. He applauds Trump's foreign policy in almost every regard. There's no difference between these assholes. But of course, you have people defending this, right? Saying, hey, hold on a second. Biden didn't order that. That was Trump like a few days before he left. No, that's not how it works. Yes, that's not how it works. It's not D-Day. You don't have several armies waiting to disembark and you can't move them. No, you can, make calls. You have satellite communications. Biden could dismantle every U.S. base in one day if he wanted to. He doesn't want to. You know why? Because he's not there to stop the wars. He's not there to go against the interests of the military-industrial complex, the fossil fuel and oil industry. He's not going to do that because he's not different from Trump. They're all the same shit, and you won't get that. And it's like, even when you put it in people's faces, look, they're still invading. They're still here. No, that was Trump. And they're doing that now with the COVID stuff, right? At first, Biden said, in the first 100 days, I'm going to be tough on COVID. I'm going to deal with this. I'm going to solve this crisis. And now he says, oh man, the trajectory is on a path of its own. I can't do anything. It's all Trump's fault. I bet you he's going to say the same thing about Yemen. Oh man, Trump, he botched this, and we'd love to remove sanctions on Yemen, but we just can't do it. So sorry, a bunch of million people have to starve. The country with the most powerful military in history, the richest country on earth, it can't leave. It can't prevent suffering and sanctions. Really? Wow. Okay. Who buys this? Who buys this except a dunce, a moron, or someone who's trying to make excuses for war criminals and deep throat their boots and be a bootlicker? Disgusting, man. You can go ahead and make as many excuses as you want. It doesn't change the reality on the ground. And this is exactly what we warned you about. This is exactly what we told you. I told you, go and look months ago. I'm telling you, look at what Blinken is saying. Listen to Tony Blinken. He's saying Biden is going to keep troops in Syria. He's going to keep the oil. Who was listening when I was saying that? Who was paying attention? Reading? I mean, you didn't have to read between the lines. It's just saying it. You go read the CBS and Washington Post interviews. No, it's the lesser of two evils. It's the lesser of two evils. Oh man, it's like dealing with zombies, really. So I'm gonna read your super chats. I thank you very much for your kind and lovely support. We got one from Levon Huey, says, great show as always. Thank you. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Emblem Fate, good to see you, says, what democracy? If you have to cheat in the primary to win, then you're an illegitimate president. He's a demented president for a demented democracy. I mean, I have not forgotten what happened in the Iowa caucus. I have not forgotten that 1 year ago. Do you remember 1 year ago where Biden was last January? Okay, actually, to be fair, I think by January, February, the race had narrowed down severely. I think you only had like Tulsi, Bernie, and Biden. I could be wrong, could be February though. But my point is, just barely a year ago, Biden was dead in the water. Many people, including myself, were like, no, this guy doesn't have a chance. I mean, it's just, no. We're wrong. We were very wrong. But I mean, that's the least of the issues. I mean, if he was, a good human being and he has dementia, no one would even bring that up, right? No one would bring that up. And I don't bring it up either. It's not really the point. His policies are shit. His career is shit. He's a war criminal and a piece of shit. It's Joe Biden. Whether we're talking now in 2021 or in 1994, he was a piece of shit. And, it's a shame. The country has 320 million people in America, and this is the best that they could muster. I mean, I'm not saying it's all 320 million people's fault. It's not, but it speaks to how bad, to how sad it is. Kristen, thank you for the sticker. I appreciate it. And Macharius, if I'm saying that correctly. He says, Blue MAGA is a cult, just like normal MAGA. Americans need to stop worshiping their politicians. Trump 2.0 is coming and the mainstream media is helping. I mean, I don't know how things are going to turn out, man. I wouldn't be surprised by that. There are some people that are saying in 2 years they're going to lose the House, and it's going to turn red, just like you had after Obama, right? And I mean, look, man. One thing is for certain: if this blue White House and blue Senate and blue House don't do anything, some shit's going to happen. I mean, they're going to. Man, you already saw how close it was now. You just saw how close it was. How many seats did Democrats lose? A lot. They barely held on. So definitely, neoliberalism, we already know what it leads to. We already know. Matt, thank you for the donation. Matt says, extreme political theater for a decaying empire. Yes. I'm assuming you're referring to when the journalists were salivating over Joe Biden. Yes. Turbo, thank you for the super chat. Gregory says, thank you, Richard. I really wish that all you have said about Blinken, Pompeo, and all of the other U.S. war criminals in pursuit of empire will percolate through to the minds of millions of Americans. I hope so too, man. I hope so too. I think it's important to understand how when you have a nation that is so focused on maintaining an empire, I mean, it's not just the people living under the empire, under occupation, that are suffering. It's also at home, right? Because you see it. Everything is being neglected, whether it's public infrastructure, healthcare, teacher salaries, you name it. Look at the homelessness crisis in Los Angeles. It's embarrassing for a so-called first world nation. It shouldn't be happening. And it really speaks to the level of greed of imperialists. It knows no limits. Like, they will, steal the clothes off of your back if it means that they can make a buck. And they don't care if they kill people in the process. It's really sad. And I hope people can realize that. There's a lot to be said about class solidarity. And I don't say that, just for the sake of saying it. It's visible when you look at this new administration, as I've called it, Uncle Joe's Rainbow Coalition Death Cult, right? Great. There's diversity. Awesome. We got a black female vice president. We got a black secretary of defense. We have the entire White House communications team is made up of women. Okay. What are their policies? Oh, okay. They're imperialists. Yeah. Yeah. We can't win, man. Francis, thank you very much for the sticker. You are number one. B Rad says, thanks for all that you do, Richard. I've learned so much since finding you through your interview with Ryan Knight. I'm happy to hear that. I'm glad you saw what I did with Ryan. That was really really good talk. Like, I think we went on for an hour and a half or something and spoke about everything and about the one party system, or I think Tucker Carlson, what did he call it? A uni party? Yeah, two sides of the same coin. So it was a very good discussion. I'm very glad that you've found yourself here, found your way here. I appreciate it. Rob, thank you for the donation. Says, you said the magic words, Richard. Julian Assange. Here, have some Canadian bits. Well, I mean, we're not just saying Julian Assange just to say Julian Assange. It's just, it's sickening. I mean, I remember around Christmas, I was reading about the Blackwater mercenaries that Trump pardoned. And I mean, I was sickened by it. Truly. And at that moment, I was thinking, no, I don't think he's going to pardon Assange, because it's like, I mean, it's just one among other reasons, but just there's no moral compass. What did we expect, right? And it's sad. It's sad to see so many criminals, so many corrupt people. And I don't just mean Trump's personal entourage. I'm talking in general, that he's pardoned. And yet Julian Assange, he's letting him rot away in a prison. And we must be clear. This is not just the U.S. fault. The United Kingdom is to blame. Australia is to blame. Look at the neglect from the Australian government. It's like they don't even acknowledge Assange's existence. He's your fucking citizen. Can you imagine if an American journalist was trapped in a Chinese jail or something? You think the US would shut up about that? Emblem Fate says, yet neoliberals still think Assange and Trump are friends. God. I know. It's so dumb that I try not to entertain, to even acknowledge. It's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. It's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Even when people were saying that, oh, look, he might be pardoned. I would see people saying that, oh, look, you see, this is his buddy Putin telling him what to do and cover up for what Assange... Who do you think is charging him with 175, rather 18 counts and 175 years in jail? So it's the fucking Trump administration. What kind of... Yes. They are not well. They are not well. Turbo says, you are a natural teacher. Can I call you rabbi? Thank you. That's I'm humbled. I'm flattered. I don't know if that would offend anyone of the faith, but I really appreciate it. By all means, if you'd like to, go ahead. Marshall says, I hope you're doing well in these trying times. I appreciate that. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, man. Reading about what's happening in Yemen, I don't know how anyone can be okay with that. And we're not even the ones experiencing it. At the end of the day, we're all blessed. We're all very lucky and privileged. And you read what's happening there. And for example, also I saw before yesterday, you had a boat with 40 refugees leaving off of the coast of Libya. They all drowned. I mean, this is heartbreaking, you know? Why do you think these people leave? They don't leave because they have nothing better to do. You know, they leave their families behind, their culture, their lives, their friends, everything they know, and they risk drowning, and many of them do drown. I mean, think of how desperate and barren the situation is back at home for them, that they are forced into such a situation. And this is, of course, the result of centuries of colonization, looting, slavery, plundering, theft, and it's still ongoing. It's not like, oh, look, Italy has left Libya. It's no longer a colony. Oh, look, the French have left Syria. It's no longer a mandate. Oh, look, Egypt is finally free of the British. Dude, these countries are still being fucked by the same powers, just in different ways. And sometimes they just, straight up invade them, as we saw in Iraq, as we're seeing in Syria. It's not just like, oh, economic exploitation and, keeping them handcuffed and underdeveloped. No, they still even bomb them and still occupy them. And as we saw, you still have U.S. troops just rolling into Syria like they own the place. It's not changed. This is no different. And people really need to see that. And it's really heartbreaking. Again, I know I'm going off a bit on a tangent, but my point was that, it's despite all that, we got to try and stay positive, I guess. But yeah. Anthony says, new hashtag ideas, hashtag get Joe to a home, and hashtag USA get the fuck out. Okay, I mean, look, man, I don't want to make fun of his age, particularly. I think there's more than enough to say about Joe Biden, but definitely hashtag USA get the fuck out. I definitely with that one. Atom Gray says, constantly impressed, little brother. Thank you. That's very kind of you. That's very humbling. I appreciate that very much. Christopher says, our media in Australia too. Shocking silence. I'm not surprised. You'll have to forgive me. I forgot the Australian foreign minister's name, but she, hold on, I'll get it 1 second. Her name is, Payne, Maurice Payne. She tweeted yesterday about Navalny being arrested in Russia. What about Assange? Like, you're the foreign minister. I mean, every Australian politician, whether it's an MP or any other cabinet position, perhaps, they should all be expressing concern and outcry against what's happening to one of their own citizens. Not a mention. They only care, and again, this is true of Dominic Raab, who's the UK foreign minister. They only talk about press freedoms and they only talk about human rights violations when it suits their agenda. But when it even happens to one of their own citizens, they will not say a word if it's disadvantageous to their agenda. It's insane. They're so quick to sell one of their own out. It's astounding. And so just by extension, I go back to your point, Christopher. I'm not surprised at all. And, British media, Australian media. If you guys thought that just only the US is shitty media, no, it can sometimes, and that's saying something, sometimes it can be even worse in the UK. And very often it's just as bad, if not worse. So Bay Area, thank you for the donation. Says, hey, comrade, thanks for calling out the diverse imperialists that are working against the people. Your perspective is truly valuable and needed in the left right now. I really appreciate that. And yeah, again, I think it's really something that people don't want to hear. They don't want to know about Uncle Joe's Rainbow Coalition death cult because it's such an obvious call out, right? It makes no sense to the majority of the world. I mean, do you really, like, these people, these liberals, they think that, everyone across the globe shares their joy and opinion. No, the fuck we don't. Most people are not stupid. They can see what the US is. They know that these politicians are not going to do anything different. Case in point, look, we just went through it. So I appreciate it. I appreciate it. And indeed, we need more anti-imperialism. Austin, thank you very much for the lovely sticker. You are amazing. Right back at you. I really appreciate that very much. Just excuse me. I just need a sip. We also have some donations or super chats over here that I want to read to you. Oh, this is awesome. Jennifer and Christine, or Kristen, as the Americans say, have both signed up on Patreon. I really appreciate it so much. This crab dance is just for you. That did not go well. Play, goddammit.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard.
And Corn Pop was a bad dude. And he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line. Claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Hey, why you texting? Why? You're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it. I yield my time. Fuck you.
Definitely my favorite quote from 2020. There's a lot of funny stuff, man. Honestly, what was that other remix as well? You about to lose your job. Get this ass. I played that remix too. That was exceptional. And yeah, that's my favorite quote. Thank you very much for supporting the show. I really appreciate it. If you guys would like to help with the downfall of MSNBC, then please support independent media. It really goes a long way. Even just a few bucks. It could be a one-time donation. Anything, whatever is good for you. I know times are hard. So everything is appreciated as always. And I couldn't do this without you. It's a one-man show. It's a one-man gig. It's a one-man army. And nonetheless, I could not do it without your support. And again, I highly recommend that you join Rockfin because I'm live on Rockfin at the same time. And you're going to find all your other favorite channels there. I mean, look, the list speaks for itself, man. You got Hard Lens Media, Status Quo, Ron Placone, Unauthorized Disclosure, which is Kevin and Rania. You got Graham Elwood, Convo, Nico, Jimmy. We're all here, man. And Lee Camp as well, and Whitney Webb. So it's growing. And I think it's great we have an alternative to YouTube. Okay? And I know I explain this every stream, but I always think maybe, okay, someone doesn't know what it's about. So it's basically Patreon and YouTube in one. If you endorse, it's $10 a month, but you get everyone's premium. So that includes Jimmy, Lee Camp, everyone. Okay, so you basically everybody is going to be supported by your monthly contribution. I think it's pretty dope. Me, I like that there's no censorship most of all. So not only do we get paid better, but for me, it's nice to know I can put Syria in the title of my video and it's not going to get demonetized. I want you to think about it. This pisses me off every single time. Because, for example, today I was thinking of a title for the live stream with Syria in it. And I was like, no, I can't do that because then the video will be demonetized. Like, how fucking degrading is that? Like, you can't even put your own country's name in the title? What the fuck? Like, what? Okay, I'm going off on a tangent. Anyway, I thank you for your support. Let me just read some of the stuff that you guys sent on PayPal and elsewhere. So, hold on. I wish I could pull it up on the screen, but it's not working for some reason. So this is from Mona MVP. She says, "Really, Richie? You couldn't have told me you were gonna stream? We literally just talked earlier, you motherfucker. Love you, dude. Thanks for all you do. Thanks for speaking truth. Always keep up the good fight." Yes, and I'm looking forward to this new merch. You guys have no clue. I'm working on some special sauce with Mona, and I don't want to spoil. I think by the next stream it'll be out, and it is the fucking best. So I can't wait for that. And I'm glad you dropped by, Mona. I'm glad you found the stream and had your notifications on. Of course, this is very important. We got also a donation from Julian. Thank you very much. It says, "Thank you for what you do, Richard." From Julian, a child of a survivor of the El Salvador Civil War. Always. Thank you very much, and I appreciate that. And we got another one from Kat. Kat says, "You say the most out of all the others." Thank you. I mean, we also do 7-hour streams, so we better be saying a lot. I get what you mean, though. Thank you. And Mona says, "Check your Twitter DM when you have time. You're the motherfucking GOAT, and tell me what you think." Oh, I think I know what I'm about to find in there. Thank you. Thank you, Mona. I'm excited. I'm very excited. Caden says, "Did you see the Max Blumenthal interview with Venezuelan Vice President Rodriguez? Very intelligent lady. She puts everything into perspective perfectly." I did not see that. Thank you for letting me know, however. And just speaking of Venezuela and Max Blumenthal, there's a clip where he catches AOC at her office and he puts the mic in her face and he's like, what do you think of Trump's new brutal sanctions on Venezuela? And she's like, we're crafting a response. We'll get back to you, or something along those lines. And she just runs away. What do you mean you're thinking of a response? He didn't ask you what you think of, fucking shawarma in Damascus. He asked you about sanctions that kill people. You're part of that government. I mean, you don't care. You're a congresswoman. No, you don't have an opinion about that. And then, of course, she said, "Oh no, I defer to party leadership," meaning she agrees with regime change and sanctions. Yeah. So much for anti-imperialism among progressives. I always found it an oxymoron anyway, a contradiction. I don't know how you could be much of an anti-imperialist if you work for the U.S. government. I mean, that's kind of a contradiction. Anyway, same for the UK. Huh? We got also another donation from Aimé. There's no note attached, but I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. And Mona, check this out. Mona says, "The day Assange was not extradited, I told my students about it. I explained why he was locked up, how the U.S. wanted to lock him up due to the Espionage Act, but that he isn't even a U.S. citizen. He's from Australia, and that all he did was release documents exposing U.S. war crimes." My kids were like, "But he isn't even a U.S. citizen." I said, "Yep." And they were like, "This isn't right. He didn't do anything wrong." I went on to explain how important it is to protect press freedoms and against censorship. love my kids. We need to teach our kids to be agents of change and to stand up for what's right. That's beautiful. That's awesome. I really appreciate that a lot. And that makes me happy because, again, this is why it's so important to let people know, to educate about what's happening in the world. And again, in the case of Assange, when people find out, like, hold on, he's not even American. He wasn't, I think he's been in America once, but like he didn't commit a crime in the US. He wasn't in the US when WikiLeaks was doing its thing, which again was not a crime anyway. But when people understand these things, they all, most of them always go, what the fuck? Yeah. Again, it's so funny when you hear someone say like Assange is a traitor. To whom? He doesn't owe you anything. Like, it's hilarious. So I really appreciate that, and that's really good, Mo. I really, and I think it's also it serves two purposes, right? Because like if you say, if you claim to be a patriot, right, and if you claim to believe in a liberal democracy and in press freedoms and the First Amendment, then anyone who claims to believe in these things and support them would be shocked. And so I think it's important to do it the way you did, and that's great. So I appreciate that. And we keep fighting, right? We keep fighting for Assange. We got Katniss. Katniss, thank you so much for signing up to support the show. This crab dance is just for you. Y'all show Katniss some love.
Clap for that, you stupid bastard.
And Corn Pop was a bad dude. And he ran a bunch of bad boys.
Listen, fuckhead, you have fucking crossed the line. Claiming I'm the enemy. You got that, you goddamn son of a bitch?
I don't give a fuck what you think, bitch.
Good morning. Sunday morning.
Cut that bitch off.
Hey, why you texting? Why? You're getting nervous, man. Calm down. It's okay. Okay.
Suck my dick and choke on it. I yield my time. Fuck you.
Cut that bitch off. Dude, that shit is so funny. I swear to God. I had so much fun making that. I'm waiting till we get to 400, man. When we get to 400, there's a new crab dance coming. Come on, let me unveil it, man. I want to release it. And of course, you can hold me to this. When we get to 1,000 one day, inshallah, God willing, we will have a piñata. I will get one made. And this piñata may or may not resemble a certain person who may or may not go by the name of a certain Secretary of State. It's gonna be a blast. It's gonna be a ball. It's gonna be the bomb. No pun intended. So thank you very much for that. Neil has sent a super chat on Venmo, and Neil says, "Look, fart." I think what Neil meant is look fat, which is what Joe Biden said when he was challenging this guy to push-ups. What an obnoxious asshole Biden is, right? Like, he's asking you if you're corrupt, and then your response is to call him fat and challenge him to push-ups. What the fuck is wrong with you? Like, you wouldn't even see that in a banana republic. And then it's just, this guy becomes the president. It's unreal. And I was thinking about this earlier, how Biden was going around yelling in people's faces, like that auto plant worker and the veterans. You remember the veterans who came up and said, like, you sent us to kill people in Iraq. I mean, that's powerful. That's powerful. And you walk away from them like that after wagging your fucking finger in their faces. What a coward, Biden. He's really a scumbag. So thank you, Neil. I appreciate it. And we also got one from Jean. Thank you very much. Says, for I stand you, my brown king. Oh, shit. I appreciate that. That's very flattering. That's very flattering. I appreciate that very much. Thank you. Thank you. And we also got a message from Anna. This is also on Venmo. Thank you. Anna says, love your fire as always. Ron recently had Jesse Jett on his show, and he dropped a fiery new album, Bandcamp free to listen to, called Inauguration Gift. Listen, you said can find a link on his YouTube. Okay, so it's called Inauguration Gift. All right, that's the one. Oh, I need to check that out. I need to get Ron on the show, by the way, too. I haven't had him on. I've always wanted to get him on. And I really appreciate that. Thank you very much. So I'm going to listen to that in a second. And Hold on, I'm just making sure I didn't miss nobody. All right, hold on. Thank you. Thank you. We got Austin dropping these huge stickers. Merci énormément. Merci beaucoup. Lumpia Logic also dropping a superhero sticker. Is that, are those the Avengers? Is that the Bushes and the Clintons? Oh my God, that is really the cringiest shit, that clip that I showed you. How can you stand there as a human being and fucking celebrate George Bush showing up at an event and then call these war criminals the Avengers like they're superheroes? This is what mainstream media does to people. It just like, it eats your soul and strips you of dignity. What? Horrible. And once again, just remember, I want you to remember that shit. I want you to remember that shit that I showed you the next time you hear anybody talk about like state media in other countries. Just remember that, okay? It's like the fireworks where Joe Biden hugging the nation with his arms. What? I can't wait for people in the future, studying history to look back at this shit and laugh their heads off, really, because apparently at the moment people are in a trance, so they can't see it. Anna, thank you for your donation as well. I really, really appreciate it very much. If you guys have any questions, shoot. This is the Q&A time, so go right ahead. By the way, let me just check quickly over here. We also got some tips on Rockfin, which I need to get to. Look at that. You see why I should be on Rockfin, man? Rockfin we're taking off. So we got one over here from Pharrell Smith. Says, thanks for covering this. By all means. Johnny didn't put a note, but I appreciate the tip regardless. And Christine says, thanks for always mentioning Assange and the amazing coverage you did during his trial. Free Assange. Thank you. I really appreciate that. And can I just I remember a few weeks ago when we got the verdict, there was someone from Sky News, I think, which is a UK channel, standing outside the Old Bailey, and like he didn't even know the judge's fucking name. Now, okay, yeah, we all make mistakes, fine, whatever. But I mean, my point here is that the mainstream media didn't cover this at all. And what they would do is that they would, every time there was like, something of a development, for example, when they said that Donald Trump tried to make a deal with Assange, they misreported it as though Assange and Trump were colluding, again, this Russiagate bullshit. No, they completely misreported that, first of all, right? And the true thing is that Trump wanted Assange to reveal the source of the DNC leaks, not to say that it wasn't Russia. Those are two different things. But they misreported it, and they were just using whenever there was something happening in the hearing, they would just take shit for, sensationalization and clickbait. And again, when the verdict was finally handed down, all of a sudden, like, the mainstream media shows up when they were nowhere to be found, man. Nowhere. They're such vultures. They're really a bunch of bastards. Anyway, I'm going off on a tangent. I want to give a shout out again to all the other journalists who covered the hearing as well. There's, really a lot of fantastic work that was done by Mary, by Kevin, by Muhammad, Tariq, by Joey, Loria from Consortium News, Taylor. Did I say Kevin? Yeah, I think I said Kevin already. I'm forgetting, but we were like a dozen people basically who covered it. That's it, and everyone was so dedicated to it. And I really appreciate that, and that was great. So thank you, Christian, for the lovely donation and message. And I apologize if I forgot some other names. It's early in the morning. Anne says, thank you. I always appreciate your voice. Very grateful for that. Glenn, there's no note attached here, but I'm grateful for the tip nonetheless. And I think it's cool they added this to Rockfin. We got super chats there. No, that's good. Thank you. Katniss says, you're the news for the people speaking truth to power, love of your brain, super sexy. Oh, damn. Okay. I'm not ready for those kinds of comments, but I appreciate it nonetheless. And, you know, I think it's when it comes to independent media, I really hope that, you know, we keep growing. That's really a primary objective, I think, because a lot of the time, I don't think that most people in the world are bad. I don't think most people are warmongers. I think the reason they become passive, or simply that they're ignorant about a topic or they don't know about it enough, is because of the media. You get what I'm saying? So this is why it's so important to have a good an independent media apparatus. I think that's really something that needs to change. So my broader point here is not just like, okay, we need a third party, or and you could make the same case in the UK, by the way, right? So it's not just you need a political change and also more direct action. The media is really, you know, intertwined. I think it's obvious, right? It's the mouthpiece of the establishment. So yeah, that's definitely something needs cultivating. Here we go. And yeah, I know I'm going off on tangents. It's okay though. It's okay. So hold on. Somebody sent a donation, but my phone is being an ass, so it's not loading. Yeah. So anyway, by the way, I just wanted to say something else about Biden and Yemen. I'm really hopeful he's gonna overturn this FTO designation, but again, I don't think he will, because the guy helped start the fucking war there. He was part of that administration. I mean, you know, you can come around and say that, yeah, but he was just the VP. The VP doesn't have all of the power. So, does that mean you let Dick Cheney off of the hook for Iraq? I mean, to be fair, Dick Cheney, I think he was the president, not Bush. So that was not the best example, but that makes no sense. Do you think at the Nuremberg trials, when they hanged all those Nazis, do you think they gave a fuck? Because this is an argument that a lot of them used. Oh, I was just following orders. I didn't make the decisions. That's not a fucking argument. Don't give me that. When you're the fucking vice president of the most powerful nation on earth, you have considerable power. Don't give me that bullshit. Don't tell me that your hands are clean, that Joe Biden's hands are clean. No, they're not. And he was in government for decades before that. Don't come here and excuse and whitewash his crimes. That's bullshit. That's bullshit. And you can see right now that nothing is being done. So now when he is the president, you know, they're still coming up with excuses. It's never ending. So these people that want to constantly insulate politicians and never criticize them and always come up with some fucking reason, man, no, we're not tolerating that. You know, again, I bring up the example of just an ordinary person. Like if you got a new job, are you allowed to just do nothing at your job? Are you allowed to sit around at your desk and not fulfill your obligations? I mean, you would be fired. So why do you cut more slack for someone who has way bigger responsibilities, on whose people's lives depend? Literally. And again, I raise this issue of healthcare in America. I raise this issue of sanctions on other countries. These are life-threatening, urgent matters. They should be number one top priority for anyone who's concerned with, you know, human rights, anyone who's concerned with the value of human life, anyone. I don't know how these people fucking sleep at night. I really don't. Anyway, I just hope that more people understand what's happening in Yemen, because again, we go back to what I said about the media. A large problem with that is that most people have no clue what's happening in Yemen. Zero. And this is in the UK. This is in most countries around the world. People just don't know. And that's the media's fault, because they don't report. So We got another donation here from Claudia. It says, hi, Richie, just dropping by to say hi. I found bonjour. Oh, yes, that's those. In Syria, you could buy those like juice boxes, and they're like shaped like a triangle. Well, more like a pyramid, to be honest. But yeah, that's cool. That's cool. Found bonjour at my local store the other day, and I'll be writing about chemical attacks. Okay, for my forensic course thesis, yeah, just make sure you don't bring up the Bellingcat ones, right? Because there's no science around that. Well, I mean, the real science has been ignored, unfortunately, right? So there we go. But that's really cool. I really want to bonjour maintenant. So, guys, how long we been streaming, by the way? 3.5 hours? Man, that's amateur. Like, we've done 7 before. Shit, man, I can do it. If you guys are down, I'm down. I can talk all night, man. We could never finish talking about all these atrocities. It's truly endless. By the way, I'm very pleased to announce we are two members away from hitting our goal. We're at 398 right now. I need to update the thermometer, or whatever we're calling it, the Bidenometer. I don't know what you want to give this thing, what kind of name you want to call it, but I need to update it. It's not 394, it's 398. We're 2 members away on Patreon. Definitely go sign up if you can. Support independent media. It means everything and makes a difference. So, yeah. Just a second. I keep losing the goddamn. Zachary, it's good to see you. Zach says, well, now I want a juice box myself. Yo, man, I'm telling you, those things, they slap. They're really good. They're really good. Bon juice. I don't know when's the last time I had one. Like, I can't even remember, man. I can't even remember. I mean, yeah. Sorry, I'm daydreaming. Hold on, give me 1 second. So, you guys remember last week I did a segment. Again, this is the irony, which I wanted to point out. Okay, let me show you. Okay, so you guys remember last week, a few days ago, I did a segment about Israel bombing Syria, right? Can you guess what I'm about to say next? Yes, Israel has bombed Syria again. It doesn't stop. It doesn't. I can't keep up. I can't even keep up. So here's the headline. Family killed in Israeli airstrike against Syria. A family, including 2 children, has died after Israel launched a missile attack against targets in central Syria. This was in the Hama governorate, province, same thing. And at first, it was really interesting because you had Israeli media reporting on Twitter and elsewhere that this family was killed by malfunctioning Syrian missiles, right? So surface-to-air missiles, the air defense systems. They're saying, oh, look, the Syrians, they're so primitive. Ha, 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 ha. Their systems are so old, they killed one of their own families. Like, why would you gloat about that? Also, that's still your fault when you bomb another fucking country. Yes, air defense systems will be activated. That's the normal procedure when you bomb another country, which you should not be doing because you shouldn't be bombing other countries. And then turns out that was bullshit. Right? It was just not only gloating over a lie, but, so again, this happened on Friday. Okay, so just a few days after I did my other segment, Friday the 22nd. Israel. So, here we go. A family of 4 was killed in central Syria during a missile strike. If you look here, 4 other people, including 2 children, were wounded in the attack. Israel launched the early morning strike from Lebanese airspace, according to the Britain-based Watchdog. Again, this is the source that all Western media use. They say it destroyed 5 Syrian military sites in an area of Hama where Iran-backed fighters are present. Here we go again, right? This is the same story every single time. Israel is just defending itself. Really? This family of 4? They're Iranian militants now? Pretty sure that's a family of 4 from Syria that you just killed. You think they care? They won't even acknowledge it. You think you'll get an apology? Forget about it. Every goddamn week they're bombing Syria like it's their backyard. On top of occupying the Golan Heights, of course. I mean, I just want to ask you something. Like, if Syria was bombing Israel every week, what do you think would happen? Just close your eyes for a second. Think about that. Every week, Syria launches airstrikes on Israel. What do you think would happen in the world? I'm pretty sure Israel would declare war, and then America would come and help them. And probably some other countries from Western Europe would also come and help, and they would bomb Syria. Right? But of course, when Israel does it, the media, if they talk about it, no criticism. If they talk about it. This is really heartbreaking. And they use the same bullshit lie every single time. Oh, look, there are Iranian militias inside of Syria. Oh, look, there's a weapon cache inside of Syria. So what? I mean, listen to their logic. Even if that's true, it's not your business. You know why? Because that's Syria, and that's not your country. When a country has a defense pact, when they have alliances, they exchange troops. They have bases, outposts in agreement with each other, right? Just like you had US cops being trained in Israel, or just like you have American bases in Germany. Does that mean France can go and bomb Germany because they don't like American troops next to their border? What kind of a logic is that? Again, it's this Bush doctrine. Oh, we can attack them first because we perceive them to be a threat. No, you're the threat. You're the threat, okay? It's unbelievable. And it goes without saying, this is in complete violation of international law. You can't just go and bomb a country because you think that they're going to do something to you. You can't do that. You have to bring your case before the UN Security Council, which Israel never does, of course, because they don't even acknowledge the strikes. It's just the missiles fell from the sky. If it wasn't Israel, of course not. But what's interesting is, again, I told you last time, they've acknowledged to some degree that during the last years, during this so-called civil war, they've taken advantage of that situation to arm al-Qaeda fighters, to give them medical attention, to go and bomb Syria as much as they please. They do this all the time, right? And they do the same thing to Palestine, to Gaza. They just bomb it whenever they feel like, and over gas balloons, no less. A gas balloon. A country with nuclear warheads is afraid of gas balloons. Wow. Wow. So, I've had Rania on the show. When this happened the other day, she tweeted that. Actually, let me just pull that up for you. I can find it in a second. Right. Here we go. So this is what she tweeted. She says, I regularly hear Israeli warplanes on their way to bomb Syria, illegally using Lebanese airspace. One violation of international law on top of another. Now this, and there are never any consequences. Never, of course. And it's so bad, it's so frequent. I told you guys the other day that you have Lebanon filing a complaint with the UN because of how often and how much Israel just, again, violates their sovereignty, their airspace. They just use it like it's their own playground or something. It's crazy, right? It's really a double standard. There's one set of rules for Arab countries, and then there's another set of rules for Western countries and their allies. They can violate international law. They can get away with war crimes. They can do what they like, right? You have to respect their borders, their sovereignty, right? You want to go to the U.S.? You want to emigrate to the U.S.? Nope. Just like Blinken said, don't come. But of course, the U.S. can just roll into Syria and roll into Iraq and roll into any country it pleases and illegally occupy and steal resources, right? Amazing. Amazing. And you will never see any kind of repercussions, just as Rania so eloquently pointed out. I mean, you really think anyone at the UN is going to sanction Israel for their human rights violations or violations of not just international law in general, but UN resolutions like withdrawing from the Syrian Golan Heights or from the West Bank? They've been violating that for 50 years. Or East Jerusalem. Doesn't matter. They can do whatever they like. They just do whatever the fuck they like, man. It's really, it's sad. So I just wanted to share that with you very quickly. Atom Gray says, stay online and hydrate, my brother. Thank you. I really appreciate that because I am indeed getting quite thirsty, boy. Brandy. I need brandy, boy. Hold on. What we got over here? Yes. Okay. I'm reading your comments. Okay. Yeah, I know what you guys are saying. But it's not that easy. I mean, you're right. If you take it to the UN Security Council, you're going to have France, well, definitely the UK and the US. They will veto anything that, is disadvantageous to Israel. But again, I remind you, if you look at the 67 war, afterwards they had Resolution 242, which passed unanimously. Everyone in the Security Council, the P5 and the other 10 members, they all voted for it. Again, so that includes the US and the UK, and they won't abide by it. And that's just one, That's just one UN resolution. It's like, whatever, yeah, and then Trump comes along and he's like, yes, I recognize this as Israeli. Based on what? Your own country did not vote against that resolution. They voted for it. I mean, it's absurd, right? It's really comical. And I point out to you and I highlight again, did you hear anything from Blinken about that? He's not going to move the embassy away from Jerusalem. He's not going to, roll back anything Trump did in regards to that. Pay attention. Among other things. So, they tell you on one hand, oh, look, Biden, on day one, he signed so many executive orders rolling back what Trump did. Rolling back what exactly? A few things here and there? Okay. Like the Muslim ban. He didn't roll back the Obama one. He didn't roll back any of the foreign policy shit that Trump did. He's not stopping any U.S. troops from going into Syria and stealing oil. Wake up, man. Stop kidding yourself. You can't bullshit. Like, you go and bullshit some people that don't know better, but don't come and bullshit me. Like it doesn't work. And this has nothing to do with even Biden particularly or Trump. It's just, they're all the same. They just don't want to listen. They don't want to listen, man. They don't want to listen. They've slipped into a trance, I'm telling you. So, guys, with that said, hold on. This thing is not scrolling down. Okay, perfect. Oh, Darius asks, what happened to the interview with Abby Martin? Did you forget about her too? I actually wrote to her a few months back, but she was on maternity leave, so I need to catch up with her and get her on here. I'd love to speak with her. She does fantastic work, especially on Palestine. But I mean, everything she's done on Empire is wonderful. So you should check out her work, and I'd love to get her on. Oh shit! I just remembered something I want to show you. Okay, sorry. This is completely random, but I have to show it to you. Oh god, this is okay. Hold on. This has like nothing to do with anything we just talked about. God dang it! Where did it go? Okay, I think. Oh god. Okay. Tell me if you can hear this.
But make no mistake, there will be a trial, and when that trial ends, senators will have to decide if they believe Donald John Trump incited the insurrection against the United States. But make no mistake, there will be a trial, and when that trial ends, senators will have to decide if they believe Donald John Trump incited the insurrection against.
That's so bad. Yes, listen, Chuck. Let's rectify this issue. I do believe indeed that Long Dong Johnson Trump excited the erection. That was a weird Freudian slip to have, especially about such an issue. That's a weird one. Chuck. I mean, I understand the Capitol building is very phallic in nature, but I mean, Trump, it's not my type, man. Trump is he's too orange for me. I'm not into Cheetos. Long Dong Johnson Trump excited the erection. I mean, look, man. By the way, you know Chuck Schumer is the Senate Majority Leader now, right? So it's not McConnell anymore. Let's see what they do. Democrats for the last couple of years have been saying, "Oh, we want to get this passed, and McConnell won't let us. It's sitting on his desk. He just won't sign it. He won't bring it up for vote. We can't do anything." Okay, all right, you're back in control now, right? You got Schumer. Come on, excite the erection. Let's go. Oh man. Anyway. Okay. So I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. All right, guys, just before I bounce, because I must recuperate, we are 2 members away from hitting our goal on Patreon. Like we are right now, currently 270 people watching. I know we can hit that goal. I know we can get to 400. Let's do it. And of course, there will be a crab dance waiting for you. So again, I'm going to plug the show fully before I leave. If you can, please make a one-time contribution on Venmo or CashApp, PayPal, whatever is good for you. However little or however much you would like, everything is appreciated. And I truly mean that. And I'm grateful to have this platform and to be able to do this thanks to you. Those are QR codes, by the way, very fancy things the kids use. You can just scan it with a camera or something, as they tell me. No, I know what they are. And other than that, there's also the Patreon. Again, we're 2 members away, and you can donate $2 a month, $5, anything you like. You can put in whatever figure or number you like. It's fine. And yeah, man, it's just independent media. I sound like the dude, from The Big Lebowski. That's just your opinion, man. Okay, so there's Patreon, and then of course I recommend Rockfin because you're gonna find all of Lefty Media there. That's also great idea. If you plan on supporting $10 a month, which would be greatly appreciated, this goes to everybody, right? So it's the future, man. And that's it. Rockfin.com/RichardMedhurst. And I really appreciate your support. So there you go. I'll have the segments uploaded shortly for you to share and comment on. And I really appreciate it every time somebody comments or likes the video. All of that helps with the algorithm. So thank you very much. And the newsletter is also an important thing to sign up. It's free and it's like a backup plan. So the link, you'll find that also in the chat. Don't cost you nothing. It's just you put in whatever name you like. You can put in Corn Pop if you want, and then your email. That's it. Corn Pop. Yeah, that's it, guys. That's basically it. And I thank you so much for all of your kind words and for tuning in. It's greatly appreciated. And yeah. Oh, and by the way, we already went over this. Look at this, man. We smashed this GoFundMe goal thanks to you guys. Thank you so much. So we can keep going. Anyway, I'm gonna sign off and sign out. Thank you very much. Merci beaucoup. It's great chatting with you guys, and I'll see you on the next stream. Ma salame. Take care.